Ryan Wedding, the former Olympian turned FBI most wanted fugitive, has been arrested. Antifa has decided that they want to armor up and they're going to take on ICE. The federal government has laser beams, and we're going to talk about that. And then there's a big winter storm coming, and it has the whole country on high alert, well, most of the country on high alert. And we'll get into that. But right now, here's a word from our sponsor.
It is Rumble Wallet on the App Store. My friends, you got to check it out. They can cancel your accounts, they can freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, say or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters now more than ever. Go to wallet.rumble.com. It's non-custodial. Okay, let's break this down. What does it mean? On the Rumble wallet, you can trade crypto with people who have accounts on Rumble. It's like an app where you can send people cash, but it's either Tether Gold, or Bitcoin, making it really easy for you to tip people on Rumble and pay somebody money you owe them. Maybe you're going to the store and you're like, hey, man, I want to get a slice of pizza. I didn't bring cash. Hey, let me Rumble wallet you some Tether, which is effectively tied. It is effectively US dollars. It's tied to the US dollar. There's no permission, no middleman, no cancel button. No one's banning you. No one's spending your accounts. Rumble has no control over this. There's no reality where Rumble can go in and ban you and shut down your ability to trade your currency. It is yours. It's not a credit line that can be shut off. It's your wallet, permanently yours. When the systems fail, institutions turn on their own people. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom and ownership and protecting what's yours. So take control. Download Rumble Wallet now. Step away from the big banks. Go to wallet.rumble.com and check it out. We got a link for you too. I think it's, okay, well, that's not a good link I can say, but I'll have a link in the description below. Check it out. Most people don't look forward to their annual physical because they're nervous what their doctor might find. That's why what you do before the appointment matters. So before your next checkup, make the one health change your doctor should notice or your money back. Make it Field of Greens. Doctors today look beyond your calendar age. They look at your biological age, how healthy your cells and vital organs are. Field of Greens was designed with that in mind. Each fruit and vegetable is doctor selected to support your cells, heart, lungs, kidneys, and healthy weight. In fact, a university study found that participants who only added Field of Greens saw measurable improvements in key health markers. Just one change changed everything. That's why Field of Greens promises your doctor will notice your improved health or your money back. Go into your next physical confident. One scoop, once a day, done. Make Field of Greens your one smart change this year. Check out the university study and get 20% off at fieldofgreens.com. Use promo code TIM. That's fieldofgreens.com and use the promo code TIM.
And share the show with all of your friends. Head on over to rumble.com, become a member there, and join our Discord at timcast.com. If you join the Discord, you can be a part of the Rumble After Show, and you can you can ask questions of all the guests and stuff. Joining us today to talk about everything in the news is Ruslan.
Ruslan KD, yes.
Ruslan
You said it right. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Glad to be here with you guys.
Who are you? What do you do?
I'm a YouTuber, podcaster, author. Just had a book that was a USA Today bestseller called Godly Ambition. And yeah, I speak, I travel, and I do YouTube.
Awesome. Ian's here.
Hey, man. What's up, everybody? Ian Crossland in the house. I'm an actor and a musician. I'm really into this energy weapon thing we might talk about. I think was that picked up as one of the stories. Department of Defense, man, on it. Sean Frasick in the house.
Producer Sean here, holding it down for Tate Brown, and I'm really excited to get the 4D Ian experience today.
Also known as the blue hoodie. With the
blue hoodie, I changed it to the polo. We're in Florida. Can't have the hoodie.
Nice blue. His shoes are blue right now.
They painted the roofs blue in Maui, I heard, before the directed energy weapons lit that fire. Isn't that how the story was? I don't know. I'm kind of joking. I don't know if it was directed energy weapons that lit that fire in Maui, but yeah, there's a lot of blue roofs that were spared from the fire. Did Oprah set the fire?
Buy it all up.
I don't know. Can she sue me for asking that question? No, I don't think Oprah said it either.
All right, let's get right into it. From ABC News, Ryan Wedding, former Olympian turned FBI most wanted fugitive, was arrested. Ryan Wedding, the former Olympic snowboarder, investigators said has been leading a major drug ring, has been arrested, U.S. officials announced on Friday. The 44-year-old Canadian was on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list in connection with the indictments that allege he's responsible for tracking multi-ton quantities of cocaine from Colombia to Canada and connected with with several murders for hire in Canada and Mexico. At my direction, Department of Justice agents and FBI have apprehended yet another member of the FBI's top 10 most wanted list, Ryan Wedding, the one-time Olympian snowboarder turned alleged violent cocaine king. The U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi said in an ex post, Wedding was flown to the United States where he will face justice. Look, I just found out about this story. We were doing the culture war earlier. But again, is the DOJ an agency that we can rely on? It seems like they've been putting some effort into doing stuff after a year of, basically a year of false starts. Excuse me.
Yeah, I think like, unfortunately, it's just another one of those stories that Cash is not going to get credit for. It's kind of like what we saw at the NBA. Like, they do make moves, they do things. I do think a lot of people out there just want to see arrests. They want to see the people they view as enemies and their oppositions being arrested. And without that, it's like these stories go.
Right. But then as a justice maker, you can't just go off of emotions and appease people and give them the bloodthirst, So then you end up looking like the bad guy, and your mistakes get blown out of proportion and your successes go under the radar sometimes when you're doing the right thing. It's the curse. It's a curse of being a good person in life a lot of times.
Well, I mean, this guy's alleged to be a drug trafficker.
No,
so
I mean,
this isn't about vibes or anything like that. This is
right.
They have a substantial amount of evidence. I suppose
more about like if people in the Justice Department are doing what's right, and they're not going after people based on emotions. They're doing like legitimate
their job.
Work. They might end up looking like the bad guys because they're not satisfying people's bloodlust.
Are you under the impression, or is it your sense that the people in the DOJ are doing things off of emotion?
No.
No,
they've been really good about being like robotic about stuff.
Yeah, okay. What you're saying is they're not trying to appease their base by being emotional and just going after the people that those people want arrested.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, look, the people that most of the people, not everybody, but most of the people that that seem to be most wanted by the internet, it is really based off of emotion. They want to see their political enemies or people they deem as the bad guy. They want to see them wrapped up regardless of whether or not there's enough evidence. And look, if you're going to make the argument, well, they went after Donald Trump and there was, little evidence, or they created a situation where Donald Trump was guilty of things, or they could say that Donald Trump was guilty of things. I'm right there with you. I totally think that most of the stuff that they went after Donald Trump, probably all of the stuff that they went after Donald Trump for was fabricated or somehow engineered to make it look like it was worse than it was. Like the 34 felonies, like all that stuff was BS. They changed the laws so that way Donald Trump could be indicted on the Jean Carroll stuff. So I'm right there with you. I agree. But that doesn't mean that the right should go, or this DOJ, more to the point, should be trying to fabricate stuff to get people. I think that there's enough evidence of actual wrongdoing where they can legitimately say, look, the people that we're arresting, they're either guilty or we have enough evidence to believe they're guilty of crimes.
It's a good way to look at it. There are enough legit criminals out there. We don't need to fabricate stuff right now. There's a lot of like illegal immigration and organizations, NGOs that are tied to those people that they can pull strings on and find out, well, who paid who, and they can go to the top of the top, and then they can give it to the executive branch and be like, maybe they were Mexican cartels. You can have that aspect of it. We'll take care of the domestic aspect of it.
Well, I mean, to your point, right? Like, so there's a lot of people that want to see, Antifa wrapped up. They want to see arrests of Antifa members and stuff. And because what I'm hearing is that they're looking at RICO cases. Those kind of cases take a long time to tie together. You can't just say, "Oh, we think all these people are connected because they all wore black bloc, or they were in black bloc, or they wore black to a protest." You actually have substantial ties to make a RICO case stick. Yeah. And the last thing the DOJ wants to do is arrest people and not have things stick, because that's not going to make anybody happy either, right? Like if they were to go and arrest a bunch of people and say, well, you guys are all Antifa, right? The DOJ doesn't follow through, or they're not able to put people in jail. The people that are up in arms right now, it'll only inflame those people. They're only to say, well, we can't trust the government. We can't trust the judges. So now you'll end up having people you'll have more people saying that we need to go to extreme measures and we need to take things in our own hands. And that's not something we want at all.
Yeah, I find this interesting that this is like the real life Ozark. This is a regular looking dude who seemingly was, I guess a celebrity within this space, and he is a drug lord.
I know.
Like, this is crazy stuff. Now, what I also find interesting is that from the outside looking in, I would think that anyone who's an Olympian and crushing it is not going to need to move cocaine and drugs across state lines. And so I'm curious how much of this is, hey, you get all this celebrity notoriety, clout, and your lifestyle increases, and now you got to maintain this status. So then you get into shady stuff. Or if this dude was always into shady stuff and it just all amplified as he became more high profile.
I mean, I imagine the kind of person that would want to put the effort into becoming an Olympian level snowboarder, right? Like, that guy's kind of gotta be an adrenaline junkie. Is that tied to his being in the drug world, being trafficking drugs? Is he looking for that high again?
Yeah.
Because obviously most of your drug lords or whatever, they're motivated by money, but this guy ostensibly had a lot of fame and money before that.
Do you think he was really rich prior to this?
I was going to say I'd fact check that because as an Olympian,
I don't think they're
typically don't make a lot of money.
No, but I mean, I imagine he had sponsorships. He had a lot of notoriety and stuff. So I'm just thinking that again, this is just I'm just imagining this, but like, he's after the adrenaline, and a lot of people that end up in doing any kind of criminal activity, a lot of times they're after the high of getting away with it, and the money's nice, obviously, if you're moving that much cocaine, you're making a boatload of money. But like, I'm wondering, was the motivating factor the money, or was the motivating factor like, I'm beating the law, they can't catch me?
I think the adrenaline's part of it, but also, and you saw with the NBA story, is the same thing. It's like, these people have connections. The higher you get, the more famous you become. You are connected to people with money and influence and stuff. And, you start doing a little bit here and there. You have people, the people that have the connections, they want the product. And, so to your point, Phil, I do think there's a little bit of the adrenaline, but also he's in the right place, the right time, and he knows the right people.
Do they drug test when he was in the Olympics, and how long ago did he win this gold medal? Because I'm curious if he was using coke before.
That's why he was really good.
You know what I mean? And then how long ago was this?
I'm not sure.
Medal.
That's
I don't know if there's
that's a good question.
You don't even know if he won a medal?
No, I don't think he won a medal at all. I think he just was
an Olympian.
Yeah, I can see here,
$1 billion there. CNN says the Attorney General Pam Bondi previously said Wedding's operation was responsible for more than $1 billion a year in illegal drug proceeds. Officials had believed Wedding to be somewhere in Mexico under the protection of the Sinaloa cartel. Look, $1 billion. That's a lot of money. That'll make people do a lot of crazy things.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of libertarians out there screaming like, this is also why we just need to legalize drugs.
I mean,
more Olympians.
So that way the Olympians can get the coke they need.
You end the black market. You destroy it like overnight. Like, that's one of those arguments. I'm not saying I'm not making this argument. I'm just saying I know there's people. This is why they make this argument. It's like, our FBI is going after people constantly, like putting their lives at risk over drugs that because they're illegal, there's this black market.
As a former libertarian, I personally don't find that argument compelling anymore. And a lot of the reason is not that the DOJ and the government doesn't spend a lot of money trying to enforce the drug laws. It's the results of having drugs very accessible. You look at places like California, basically the whole West Coast, right? Portland, Oregon, Washington State. You can see the homeless population, and you can see the absolute havoc that those drugs have wreaked on the homeless population. There's a lot of people that if they didn't have access to drugs, if they didn't have the ability to shoot up wherever they wanted, basically wherever they want on the street, if they didn't have the ability to do that, they would be more inclined to do the things necessary to have a house, right? Like, if you can stay in Southern California, live on the streets where it's, basically always nice, you don't have to worry about getting shelter from in
the
January.
snowstorm.
Yeah, you're not going to worry about it. Like, if you're in San Diego, like, you get a nice jacket, and even the chilly mornings you're fine, and you can shoot up drugs without the police coming and telling you got to move along, without having to worry about the government, trying to enforce drug laws on you. There's a lot of allure to that. There's a lot of people that are like, I will choose to do drugs. Whereas if you constantly are getting told you got to go, you can't do that here, you get arrested and thrown in jail, and you have to deal with all that stuff, that will make, that does, not just will, but that does make people decide that they don't want to live that lifestyle anymore.
Yeah, so thanks for looking that up. Yeah, 28th, placing 28th in 2002. 24th? Okay, I got 28th here. 2002, which is a long time ago. Second, I took an oceanography class when I was in high school still, and I live in San Diego. I live in North County. And one of the things the oceanography class talked about in the class was talking about, because the climate is so neutral where we live, that there has been documentation. I don't know how much of this is prevalent now, but definitely in the 90s and early 2000s, where other cities would ship us their homeless people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, 24th, so he could have competed in the women's side and then been first.
Been number one.
But to Phil's point, and I have this discussion with Tate all the time because he's like the youngest curmudgeon I've ever met. But he argues the same thing. He says, if people don't have access, they won't do it.
I think that's true.
I've grown up. I grew up in Chicago. Weed was illegal, coke was illegal, all this mushrooms was illegal. Guess what the kids always had, right? And like what I've kind of seen, like since weed is like one of them where it's been legalized, I've seen people who would normally seek it out are seeking it out less because they can kind of get it anytime, and the cool factor is gone away. It's like when you tell people they can't have something, it gives it that oomph of like, oh, now I'm really going to go get it because you're telling me I can't have it. But when you tell them they can have it, it's like kind of like alcohol. It's like,
But to that point, like it is like marijuana and heroin are totally different. Sure. They have a totally different effect on your ability, on your body, on your ability to function in society. There are plenty of people out there that smoke pot that it doesn't mess up their life, right? Like I think probably the majority of people that are recreational marijuana users, they'll smoke pot and it's not a big deal. It doesn't ruin their life. But there aren't a lot of recreational heroin users, right? If you're taking fentanyl,
there was a professor that did a whole experiment out of DC that tried to prove that you can use heroin
microdose.
No. He was shooting up.
Whoa.
Yeah, and you guys could Google this on your own. But yeah, and his whole point.
I remember that guy.
Yeah, his whole point was
dreadlocks.
Yes. Black dude with dreadlocks. Yeah, I am going to show that addiction is more correlated to class and environment. And so I'm going to prove to you that because I have a stable life as a professor and I have a stable income, I'm going to be a functional heroin addict.
I would love to follow up on this guy.
I don't want to remember what happened.
Oh, God, we got to look this up.
Dr. Michael, what was that guy's name? We'll figure it out.
No, it's a good question because it's like, it's one of those things where it's like the chicken or the egg. Is it people are seeking it out because it is illegal? Like this guy's whole billion-dollar business wouldn't exist if it was
legal. Yeah,
right.
I think I used to hold more of a libertarian view on this, so I understand what you're saying. I think as I became a father, I'm a father of 3 now. I absolutely want more friction for vices and then less friction for vices, and I think that to me just makes more sense.
Now I'm going to challenge you, Ruslan. Like when you tell your kids they can't do something, what do they want to do?
My kids love Jesus and are really good kids, so they usually listen to their father.
I think if the kids trust the parents, because the parents create a really comfortable and warm and loving environment, they'll listen to them. Because I was told don't smoke pot or drink alcohol.
And now look at you.
But I didn't do it until I was 23. I didn't want to do it. I knew it was poisonous, and I thought it was. Problem is when you start to learn about what drug, it comes from the word meaning dried herb. Basically, it's such a vague term for thousands and tens of thousands of chemicals, and it's the hyper addictive ones that you don't want to make legal because you just get a little taste, and then it's like you're thinking about it and crave. Like that is crazy dangerous, especially for like people other than the Carl Hart, the doctor that you were talking about earlier, Carl Hart, who wants to.
Well, I would say, like alcohol is like one of those things, especially, coming from the Midwest, alcohol is like a big thing out there. And we have a law that says you can't drink unless you're 21, right? And what happens to a lot of kids when they get into college? They end up drinking a ton because their parents have told them they can't have it. You can't have it. They get into college where there's access to it. And then they overdose. They like literally die from alcohol.
I think the second time I drank.
I was going to say, but Europe treats it differently, where Europe's like, hey, they're drinking at 14, 15. The parents are saying, hey, this is how you consume this. This is like, how you should do it. So by the time they get, to adulthood, they're not like craving it, you know what I mean? And it's not like this cool thing anymore because they were introduced to it. So there is that argument of like, hey, sometimes you gotta, you gotta show them, you know what I mean? Like, take the cool factor away.
Most of the people that are using drugs that are living on the streets, like there's usually a correlation between drug use, mental illness, if you're living on the streets, right? The two things tend to be, the Venn diagram's almost a circle. I assume there are people that can recreationally use just about any drug. I don't think that it's something that we want to say, oh, hey, it's actually okay to use heroin. Right. It's way too easy to overdose. Something like heroin or, any other drugs that are like opiates and stuff, you can stop your heart if you
so
use them and stuff. So I think that, granted, this guy, Dr. Hart, he did use heroin and it was recreational, and he survived, and I don't think that he's on it now anymore. He was on Joe Rogan and talked about his experience. He wrote a book about it. Yep. And so that's all well and good, but I don't think that the average heroin user does have that ability. Look, I used to drink a whole ton. I used to drink as much as any other alcoholic that you'd know, and I just stopped. It wasn't an actual issue for me to stop. That being said, that isn't the case for most people. If you're drinking a lot, wake up, get drunk till you pass out, get up again, get drunk, doing that consistently, most of the time that ends up killing people. Yeah. Right? Like you can't, most people can't control
I've gone in and out of phases of addiction with weed, particularly weed, a little bit of alcohol, but it's like, unless there's a purpose, if there's a purpose to stop, I stop immediately. I don't need it. I never needed it, but if there's no reason to stop, I'm like, well, if I can keep going and keep using this thing and keep succeeding, then I don't need to stop it. But if there's shit hits the fan, pardon my, immediately, all that stuff's out the window.
Always,
and focus
always
comes.
swearing.
Poop hits the fan. Yeah, what a nasty phrase anyway.
I agree with what you're saying, but it's like having the access to it too. And I think a lot of these people that are, using heroin and cocaine and all this stuff to an excess would do that with any substance. Like some people use food, some people do other things, whatever it is. They just have something wrong in their life and they're using a substance to kind of fill in those gaps. That's a whole different story.
What do you guys think about cocaine in general? I don't know if you guys have much experience. I've taken it 5 times in my life.
Never take it.
It's nasty. It's so concentrated. That's the biggest part, because I have a coca leaf where they in South America, they'll put a little tobacco in a leaf and they'll stick it up in their lip and they'll just kind of suck on it, and you get the buzz, but you also get the tobacco. It's
they
nothing
like
Coca-Cola,
right?
You've tried the cocoa leaf, because they have cocoa tea that I think is way less potent than cocaine, because they're adding gasoline and all kinds of weird stuff to cocaine. I remember I went down this rabbit hole with cocaine specifically. I think the deeper issue is that there's a meaning crisis and a purpose crisis. So when people lack purpose and meaning, they resort to vices, and then yes, there's probably a degree of genetics where you're more predisposed to being an addict. And so if you're already predisposed to be an addict, but you don't have anything to redirect that to something constructive, productive, music, art, building a business, then you can slide into seasons of addiction.
See, I think that's probably the best argument for keeping it illegal, because there's a lot of people, especially nowadays, as we have this crisis of meaning, people really, religion is on the rise here in the United States, but I don't think that there's ever been a time in human history where there have been more people that are agnostic or atheist. Right. And without family, without the kind of things that religion offers, without the things that community offers, you end up with a lot of people that kind of don't have a lot of meaning. And I think that if you were to introduce, if you legalize drugs, specifically drugs that are very dangerous for you, I think you end up with more bad results than you do good. Nowadays, you see kids, a lot of young guys that are just kind of retreating from society. They're going into playing video games, smoking pot all the time, watching too much porn, and I think you'll only see those kind of behaviors compound if you were to have something like heroin being illegal.
Well, I think in California, weed is basically legalized, and we've definitely seen spikes of petty crime, spikes of these sorts of things when you decriminalize something. And I understand, I don't want people going to jail for decades for weed. That's stupid as well. Yeah. At the same time, though, when you destigmatize something, then you're totally right. Then the young person who doesn't quite understand that success and starting a family and building a business and having a stable income and having a purpose takes decades and not weeks.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? They're going to wake up smoke weed, play video games, hang out, and waste away their most crucial years of their life, which is 18 to 25. When you should be building the foundation, you're getting stoned and playing video games all day. I'm using very broad generalities, but there is something to that. And so in California, the weed now, because of the dispensary, is more potent, and you start seeing the correlation between weed use with people who might have schizophrenia tendencies in their line. And I personally know multiple people that cannabis use triggered schizophrenia because they were predisposed to it genetically.
Yeah, they started changing weed over the last 20 years or something where it's like 29% THC, and they strip all the CBD out of the leaf or whatever. And it's like, bro, the CBD, the cannabinol, is like the healing aspect of the plant. If you remove that and you just give them the hyperstimulant, the psychoactive stimulant, of course they're going to have like heart palpitations and psychotic breaks and shit. So like, so it's almost like a different plant at that point.
Well, this is where I'm going to agree to disagree. I don't think that taking the access away helps. Like those people are still going to seek that stuff out. They're going to find it. I grew up in Chicago. Weed was illegal. Mushrooms were illegal. Cocaine was illegal. Guess what? Everyone still got it. They just had to pay these guys more money, like this guy wedding here.
The problem was
like,
that
it's just the way it is.
Do you remember the DARE program in the 80s?
Yeah, it didn't work.
Well, what it did was it put weed and heroin and cocaine all together. So when you find out weed is like a kind of a gentle psychoactive plant, and then you're like, whoa, are they lying to me about all these other ones? And then that's the gateway. But if you can educate people about marijuana, the plant, and it's a completely different thing than cocaine and heroin, like opium and all these crazy fentanyl. It's like, dude, this.
Yeah, but the DARE project, I think, fundamentally failed because it was literally the nerdiest thing that kids saw to say, hey,
cool.
Get off of drugs. And it was the dorkiest thing. And guess what the kids saw? They're like, wait a minute, the biggest nerds I know are telling me not to do something. I'm going to want to do it more.
Look, I have never done cocaine and never done heroin or anything like that. And I've been around plenty of that stuff in my life, touring in a band. You see basically everything that you could possibly want I've had offered to me and been around, and I never did. I mean, I can't speak for anyone else. I can't speak for, what anyone else's life is like. But just because you're around it doesn't mean that you're going to do it. And again, I think particularly to your point, if you feel like you have a fulfilled life or you have a goal in your life, something that you're after, you're far less likely to do that kind of stuff.
Let me just add this. As someone that my mother's an alcoholic. I come from a ton of alcohol abuse. Soviets loved to drink their vodka.
Oh, yeah. No way.
Yeah. And I would also say that in my own life, I experienced SA as a kid, and that did a number on me in terms of pornography and all that sort of stuff. The way addiction, the most linear way to fight addiction is twofold. One, you remove it by creating friction, and two, you replace it with something better.
Yeah.
And so I understand what you're saying, and I used to believe it, but I think when you remove, as a society, we're embracing this thing and we're making it cool and we're making it more potent. The more friction you can create for general people, I actually think the better. But you have to give them something better. You have to give them something to replace that: meaning, purpose, God, career, something to replace that. And that's the issue. And so for me, if I'm looking at my own struggles and having experienced that, I have to have friction on my phone so I don't access stuff that I shouldn't be looking at. And I'm constantly trying to create friction for the bad things. Don't have junk food in the house. Don't have snacks in the house. And create easier pathways for the good things. I got a gym in a tough shed. I got access to the Bible all the time. I have access to accountability and friends. So that's the I think that's the balance with addiction as a whole.
And just my argument is making it legal makes it less cool. Like making it accessible makes it. When it's not accessible and it's rare, that's when it's cool.
I don't agree. I'm not a reverse psychology. I was just like, my parents said it was bad, don't do it, so I believed them.
Yeah, I know we got to move on. I don't want to.
Yep.
But that's
we could do this. We don't have to talk about every story all the time.
We're going to jump to this story here from the Post Millennial. Breaking anti-ICE agitators bring U-Haul van with shields and gear to Minneapolis Federal Building. Attempt to impede Fed's ICE ERO head. A top ICE official revealed in a Friday press conference that the agitators have descended upon Minneapolis Whipple Federal Building in an effort to impede immigration enforcement activities. Marcos Charles, the acting executive associate director of ICE enforcement and removal operations, has said, moments ago, a group of agitators, a U-Haul van filled with shields and gear, decided to come over here to the Whipple building and block traffic. They are currently trying to impede us from getting out of the building and going to do our mission. Look, this is not new behavior from basically Antifa, right? Like we saw this during the George Floyd riots. You would see, a whole U-Haul full of gear and stuff. This stuff is coming from somewhere, right? There is someone funding this kind of stuff. Now, whether it be activists or NGOs or what have you, I think this speaks to our conversation earlier about the federal government trying to build RICO cases. Whoever's supplying this stuff, that's who the federal government should be going after, as well as the people on the ground that are fighting with the feds.
I think this is a really bad game of chicken. I think both sides in this, I would love to see some degree of de-escalation. I had Pastor Jack Hibbs on, who's friends with the Trump administration, and I asked him specifically about the ICE raids and riots. And I'm going to take a very nuanced position. You guys may hate me for this. I think most people want the criminals out of this country. I think most people want to get the criminals out. I don't think most people signed up to get the abuelas out, to get the folks that have been here for decades out. And I'm talking about people without criminal records. I'm talking about people without any issues. And so what seems to be happening is there's a sweeping, and according to Pastor Jack Hibbs, it's twofold. One, the people that are getting swept up that don't have criminal records, according to him, are being cut loose. And where people aren't catching wind of that. So they'll sweep up a bunch of illegal immigrants, people that aren't supposed to be here. These people are getting cut loose. They're going back in, but that's never being televised. The second thing is Trump is trying to make this law and order statement that we're going to go in, and now, according to the sheriffs in Minneapolis, they're saying they're pulling over police officers and asking them for papers. Like that, this seems like a bad game of chicken on that side. We're going to escalate the use of force. We're going to look more strong and brave. Why? Because we're trying to send a signal and we're trying to show who's in charge. That's one side of it. And then you have, to your point, this weird Antifa, possibly George Soros, whoever's funding this sort of stuff, that's now making it more and more intense and impeding on these actual investigation, where I'm seeing people pull up and they're saying, hey, we're here to take out this PDF file. Yeah. You're impeding on our investigation. And it's like, that's stupid. Right. And so I just feel like it's this big game of chicken to show who has the biggest balls. And at some point, like, this is all going to hit the fan. And I think we're only seeing a slither of what's possible when Antifa, you got the Black Panthers out in Philly that are got guns on them. It's like, what are we doing? Like, where's this going?
One problem is that it is a game of chicken, but one side is like a drone car. It's like a driverless vehicle. So what is the point? Like, and by that I mean it's foreign entities funding Antifa to overthrow the U.S. government. There's no lose for them. They're going to win if Antifa gets slaughtered. They're going to win if the government gets toppled. So it's a game of chicken with like a robot. Like, what are we trying to kill? Our own right arm? I know other people might have different ideas than that, but I agree with that aspect of it. Like, harder is not always better.
Right. Well, I think it's an interesting take, and I'm sure the chat's going nuts right now, because I do think the sentiment against immigration has changed. When you say, oh, we want to go after the criminals, obviously everyone agrees with that. But the whole get the abuelas out, that actually is where a lot of people are right now, because the abuelas and the people that are here illegally are taking away opportunities from the younger generation. They're taking away employment opportunities.
The abuelas are taking employment opportunities from 100%. The younger generation?
Yeah, so like we're in Florida right now, and I actually had a really good conversation with a couple of the guests this week on this. We're in Florida, and there's a lot of construction that's going on out here, and I thought I was going to see kind of more American laborers out here. And out here, guess what? It's all Mexican laborers, right? And, so I was kind of talking to some of the local people about this, and I was kind of surprised about it. But like, unfortunately, them being in those positions, it's like there's a whole domino effect with like how the economy works, and like how the people that employ illegals and low labor immigrants can literally price out the competition. But even beyond that, the positions that they're in they're taking those away from like the young kids, the 20-year-olds, the 18-year-olds, the 20-year-olds, the people like. These are the jobs where you cut your teeth, you meet the people, you get the networking, you learn the skills. Like, everyone, when they're younger, they have to be in these shit jobs. And with the immigrants being in these jobs, those kids don't have that accessibility. They don't have those opportunities. So I think, I could be wrong, but I think the the position on immigration has changed because the younger generation is seeing that these people are taking away the opportunities from them.
Yeah, I just don't know if I buy that the abuelas and the folks that have been here for generations and generations are taking opportunities from young men. I don't know if I believe that. And furthermore, didn't Trump have to flip his policy on hospitality, specifically in Florida, because he started getting calls saying, "Hey, you can't just get all these people
by
out
rich
of there."
liberals saying, go ahead.
To your point, Trump changing his stance on, say migrant workers or what have you, that's not representative of the base. That's Trump playing to the people that are employing the
populace.
Yeah. Well, no, not the populace. The base and the populace, like the young Trump voters, they actually are upset with Trump because he's not doing enough. Right. The young guys are like, look, we wanted more deportations. If they're a vocal, probably minority of the right, but they are a growing minority, and they're the ones that are going to be. They're the ones that are going to be, looking to be activists or involved in the administration. I do think that the average person will say, yeah, I think we should probably send illegals out. Now, I understand you bring up, grandparents and stuff like that, and fair enough. Like, they're not the high on the list of people to get. And if the Trump administration is cutting people loose, if they don't have violent criminal records, that's something that the media is not going to cover because the media wants to see the sensationalism. They want to see the confrontations because it gets clicks. And of course, to Ian's point, there are international entities, NGOs, and stuff like that that have a stake in this as well. But I do think that the average Trump voter would say, yeah, we should send illegals back. And I do think that
maybe you're right. I don't know. I would just say optically and pragmatically, you're not persuading anyone by having ICE pull up on kids, on grandmas, on police officers, and say, "Show me your papers."
So to that point, if they're confronting, actual police officers and stuff like that, ICE needs to adjust their tactics.
Yes.
But I don't think that the optics of ICE actually doing this really are going to affect whether or not people want to see deportations. Donald Trump deporting people was like top of Trump's agenda. And when he got elected, approval of deportations was something like 75%. It was a huge number. And
do you think that was more for get the criminals out, get the drug dealers out, get the human traffickers out, or do you think it was, hey, get the mom out that came here 20 years ago
it was
illegally?
Get the mom out.
No, it was.
What's your position? What's your position on H-1Bs?
I would say H-1Bs, if they're undercutting jobs like coders here, I would say I could see how they're unhelpful.
It's the same position for the illegals. It's just the working class version of H-1Bs. It's
You're saying this is position is the working class.
It's the same position.
Yeah, maybe you're right. I would just say I think if we're talking about who's deciding the elections, if we're talking about that group in the middle, not the far right, not the far left, that whatever amount that Trump had to flip, right? I don't think those people are looking at. Not getting the criminals out. Just the optically, I don't think they're looking at this and going.
There are people that. So when you look at the previous 4 years, people knew that the border was basically open, right? They knew that the Biden administration was not doing anything. They knew that he was letting basically anyone in, and people decided, they were like, look, Donald Trump had done pretty well prior to the Biden administration. And what the Biden administration did, I mean, legitimately, like estimates are somewhere around 20 million people. And I think the average voter would like, if you ask them in the abstract, right, not specifically, well, this person or these people or this class of people, they would just say, like, send them back. They would say, send them out. The people that came here illegally.
I would agree with you that the 20 million that came over illegally, bad policy, catch and release in America versus catch and release in Mexico, terrible. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about DACA recipients. I'm talking about folks that have been here for decades and decades and decades.
So am I.
Again, my pulse on it, I would say I don't think people are pumped on that. The 20 million, I'm with you. I think that's reasonable.
I think there's a huge young Gen Z base that is very conservative, that supports MAGA and Trump. And I think they're looking around saying, hey, we don't have any opportunities, and these landscaping jobs, these construction jobs actually do pay very well they're supposed to at least, and have good benefits, and they're not available because people that shouldn't be here are in those positions, and we're able to pay them less to do the job.
Yeah, I guess I would say I don't know how many young people are lining up to do landscaping and construction, and are having these opportunities taken from them.
This is a Democrat argument. They're not lining up to do those jobs because they're not available. If you pay well for those jobs and you give them good benefits, they will do those jobs. I did those jobs in my 20s. I did those jobs when I was 18. You have to. I was on the roof. I cut you cut your teeth. That's how you make networks. That's how you make connections, and you can actually earn a good wage. You know, there's young families. There's guys, 20, 22, whatever, with kids. Like
Doing
those are
construction
good paying jobs,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
if they're part time. Like they're good supplemental jobs in a lot of cases. I did it.
Let me push back some more. How many of you guys are familiar with TaskRabbit?
I've heard of it, yeah.
Okay, so TaskRabbit is an app where you can go on, you can sign up, and you can provide skills like assembling IKEA furniture, painting houses, you name it.
Yeah, it's like thumbtack,
from plumbing all the way to electrical stuff, right? I know multiple people that are getting on TaskRabbit that are pursuing. I got a buddy of mine. He's the #1 guy in New York. He's a comedian in that scene, making well over 6 figures on TaskRabbit, owning his labor, going direct to consumer, and building out an amazing network of people that he keeps going back to, whether it's painting, whether it's handyman stuff, whatever. And he owns the work. And TaskRabbit takes a small percentage, just like Uber or Lyft or whatever. So I know people are going like, but I want the construction job that you had 20 years ago. And I go, or you can get your butt on TaskRabbit and go build that out and actually make more money, make 10, 15 grand a month by doing this sort of thing.
Here's the problem. Most people are not entrepreneurial, especially at those ages. People want to be in a job where they know it's safe, they have job security, they can walk in with benefits. They do not want to take the risk of, hey, I'm going to start my own business.
They want the pod. They want to be safe and warm in the pod.
Most,
Daddy, serve me your bug
Most people are
paste.
like that, right?
Well, I mean,
It's not healthy.
that's a little on the
Sorry to
derisive.
interrupt, Sean.
That's a little derisive there, Ian. Like
What's that?
That's a little derisive.
Well,
the
people
way
want
that you're-
security, and if you're going to say they take security over freedom,
No.
Well,
They
no,
want
you're
job
being
security.
derisive. You're-
job security. Like they
I
want
did
to know
interrupt
their
you.
job is there tomorrow. They want to know their health benefits are going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah.
They want to know they have a paycheck next
Look,
week.
my-
They don't want to go out and start a new business. Like that's scary. It's risky.
When my father he owned his own business for most of my life, and one of the things that when he was about to start the business, one of the things my grandfather said was, "Don't do it." He's like, "Don't. You need to get a job. You need to have that job security. You're gonna need to make sure that you're gonna have a job next week and the week after, and blah blah blah." There are people that don't want to live in the pod. My grandfather, he was a member of the Greatest Generation. He wasn't a guy that was like, "Oh, I want to have this easy life or whatever." He was very familiar with working. But the idea of working for yourself is not appealing to everybody.
Correct.
Right? Like when you have a job that you have to go out and hustle and find the work yourself, that part of the job becomes a job.
Yep.
Right? Finding the work is also part of doing the work. And there are people that, again, they don't want to live in the pod. They don't want to eat the bugs. They want job security. That's a big deal to
people are sitting around their house and they're waiting to get a job offer from somebody a job that they think doesn't exist because grandma is 80 years old and is sitting here. Listen to me for a second. Hear me out.
Yeah, I gotta
if there are people that are like, I want to be given a job, I want security, and it's because grandma's nephew is an illegal immigrant. Look. At some point, you have to take control of your life. You can't just sit around and wait for the construction job to appear. If you can actually go out and get a job, get a job. Seek it out.
That's not the argument, though. Like, unfortunately, the economy that we're in right now, like, you're filling out hundreds and hundreds of applications and you're doing dozens and dozens of interviews before you're even given a job. The argument here is that because we have illegals in these positions, those opportunities are not even available.
But those people are complaining about grandma, abuela.
I just want to say, hold on. Like, when I was younger, we could literally go in the newspaper, circle a job, call them that day, and potentially get the job that day. That doesn't exist anymore. Now it's very competitive. We're already competing against Americans. Now we're competing against people that literally you can pay dirt to. There's no opportunity.
But the macroeconomic shift is absolutely disrupted everything. So yes, in the 90s and the 80s, you could be in the bell curve and average and buy a home and get married and retire with dignity. That's done. That's been done. Now, what it has is created other ways to make revenue, to make money, to own your labor, to go to direct consumer, to different clients. And yes, it may require a little bit more business savvy. But today, you can't be in the average bell curve of the average person. And I think we just need to come, in my opinion, need to come to grips with that and say you have to be exceptional.
No,
you have to go above and beyond.
I would push back on that because there are people that are just not cut out for that.
Yep.
And it's that doesn't make them bad people. It's not that they're a problem. There are just people that are not that kind of person. Because look,
that's fair, but why don't they go to a trade school and become plumbers and become welders and make six figures? I know multiple plumbers that make six figures.
But it's not
multiple plumbers.
But it's not even just that. What Phil's saying, it's also too, you have young families. Like, being entrepreneurial, taking on a new business, this requires a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of seed money a lot of times. Like,
I don't think it requires seed money to get on TaskRabbit, respectfully.
In order to get like the things that you need, like all the like the car to get
to
there,
assemble
like
IKEA furniture to build it up and make $50 an hour.
You got to go to
an hour.
different houses, right? So you need a vehicle to get there. You got to show up. You got to have tools. There's a whole lot of investment that goes into that. You're dealing with people with 2-3 kids. They don't have the money for that. They don't have the time for that. They want to show up to a job site and be like, "Hey, I'm here to do my job. Put in my 8, 9, go home, take care of my kids." Like, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying, man, there's so many opportunities and so much information.
For
and it's
single
still,
people.
No, for everybody. I got a buddy of mine. He was a stay-at-home dad. Didn't feel a lot of dignity in it. I actually interviewed him. People could look this up. Didn't feel a lot of dignity in it. Found a program at a LA community college that was a program to become one of the guys that climbs the line in the electrical thing.
Lineman.
Went through that. Yeah, lineman. Went through the program. Within, I want to say 6 months, got a job at one of our electric companies. He's now making multiple six figures. This is a guy without a college education. This is a blue collar guy. These opportunities are out there. You're going to do way better looking those opportunities out, leveraging the technology, figuring out what that. He's not an entrepreneur.
100%. 100%.
And so what I'm saying is, though, sitting back and complaining about the Jays, about the immigrants, taking your opportunities is not going to get you directly to what you actually want.
100%. But the issue with the scenario that you painted was he's a stay-at-home dad, so that means the wife's working, right? So there's an income, there's money there. He can go to school and not have it impede anything.
Yeah, again,
right?
you could go watch my interview with him. They had to figure out childcare. It was a really hard sacrifice.
I understand,
for them.
but when you're young and you have kids, so you have a young family, going to school, like now you're spending $50,000, $60,000 even at trade schools. You got to get the books, you got to pay for the classes, you got to go to the classes. You don't have time. You got to make money to feed your kids. You know what I mean?
Debating about whether or not there is opportunity out there, I think this has become a different conversation.
Is there more opportunity today to make more money today than there was in the 90s?
No.
I disagree wholeheartedly.
Wow. I disagree.
There's a million revenue opportunities now.
Yes.
Again,
entrepreneurial
look,
people
guys,
that can use the internet, that can invest in themselves. No, you cannot pick up a newspaper and call a place and get a job the same day anymore.
You can start a corporation in 30 minutes.
Yeah, you can. That's again that you're talking about whether or not there is opportunity versus what basically boils down to people's feelings about immigration. And it's the argument that some immigration does take jobs. That's just true, right? Whether or not you think that that's justification for deporting people, but the people that, when it comes to actual deportations, it's more than just an economic factor or job factor. There are people that are like, look, I want to live around people like me, and whether you agree with that or whether you think that's moral or think it's okay to have that opinion, there are a lot of people that are like, look, the people that we're bringing in, the people that have immigrated here, they're actually changing what America is. Yeah. And so it's a multifaceted topic when it comes to immigration. It's not just an economic argument.
Big problem
I'll just say it's the H-1B argument for the working class. Think about the H-1B argument. It's literally the same argument.
A lot of people are like sitting at home unemployed right now, maybe, and they're like, if they really think that if all, like Phil, you've been saying, get them all out, and you make a big deal about all of them, including Abuela that's been here for 40 years. Kids think if we get them all out, then the jobs will appear.
I don't think it fixes anything.
And if you create optics like going after old ladies, that's going to incite people to send U-Hauls of weapons to dudes that are rioting against
Okay,
it.
so to that point, that absolutely isn't going to incite.
This is why this is escalating, is because they're going after everyone.
Stop, because it's not true.
Bro, they have been hiding the fact that he's letting people out.
Okay, Ian, it's not true, because if that were the case, then the U-Hauls of weapons wouldn't have been showing up at the George Floyd riots.
They had bricks. I mean, they did pallets of bricks at the George Floyd riots.
The point that I'm making is the U-Hauls of weapons were at the George Floyd riots because those are leftist agitators looking to destabilize the country. It has nothing to do with the topic. Let me finish.
Right.
The topic is not the issue. The issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. Those people
enough rhetoric. Come on, it's the global acceptance of the weapons coming in to the riot is because of the optics.
No,
yeah, that's why people are like, oh yeah, really?
No, it doesn't matter what the issue is. The issue is never the issue. The issue is the revolution. They're using the topic as a justification for causing unrest.
You don't think both things could be true though? You don't think there's an optics issue with how ICE is doing it, as well as I'm granting everything you're saying. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think both things could be true. It's like optically, hey, you guys could be a bit more shrewd and careful and be more surgical with how you're doing stuff.
I agree totally. The optics are something they should always think about. Yes, but the idea that these kind of things are causing the left to do things, that's not the case at all.
They're causing
the left
people
is doing things because the left is taking advantage of the situation. So even if ICE was completely benign and they were very gentle about it, and say part of the reason actually is because the Minneapolis Police Department doesn't turn people over to ICE, and that is part of the plan. Like the Minneapolis police say, no, we're not going to turn them over. We're a sanctuary city, so ICE has to come in, and then the leftists have the opportunity to say, see, look, the DOJ, Trump's a Nazi, blah blah blah. It is not that the left is an effect of this stuff. The left is the cause.
Yeah, but to Phil's point, what he's saying is Trump can say come out and say the water is blue, and the left's going to use that to try and tear on the company or the country. I completely agree. And to your point, Ian, no, maybe ICE isn't the way, but like what needs to happen is like the consumer itself. Like we have to look at, when we're hiring landscaping, are they using mostly migrant workers? Maybe we have to pay more to hire the landscaping company that uses all American workers. Maybe we have to buy the product that's made with all American parts. Like there is something that the consumer can do to push back on this that will then create opportunities in America. You just have to get people to understand like how important their dollar is. You know what I mean?
Okay, let me give you guys a practical example. I live in a neighborhood. We need landscaping. We have guys come by all the time offering landscaping. They're all either immigrants or sometimes second-generation immigrants. I don't know their legal status. We've never had an American come by and offer landscaping services.
And
not
they're
once.
out there.
Not once.
They're out there.
Yeah.
And this is, we can
but
build
do you see my point?
Yeah, no, but they're out there. They just cost more.
Yeah, well,
that's the issue.
That wasn't the point. The point was the people that are marketing and hustling, that are coming around and saying, "Hey, we'll do this thing for you." And they're not Americans. So now again, I'm not saying they're all illegals. That's not my argument. I'm saying the folks that are doing this sort of work generally seem to be Hispanic and laborers and migrants.
I understand because they know they can price out the competition.
Right.
That's it. Like when you don't pay people, it's
like
why China.
I get it.
It's why China is where they are economically.
So as someone that shares your values, right? I've never even had the opportunity for someone to come door to door and say, "Hey, I'll do this thing for $1,500 that this guy is going to undercut me for $1,000." But man, I'm an American.
Because the Americans know that neighborhood is completely taken up by the companies that are undercutting them. And that's what I'm just saying. As a consumer, we need to look and seek out those American companies and support American.
That is an assumption to think that those neighborhoods are doing that. So if people truly believe, what's the point? They're all doing it anyway. I'm not going to try.
What does that even mean?
That's the argument you just made.
They want that underclass. They want the immigrants in here because they know they can pay them less to clean their houses, do their lawns, do it. It's the Democrat argument. We want the immigrants because we need our underclass.
Look, all this is good.
But that's not my argument. My argument is, hey, I'm willing to pay extra for Americans to do work like landscaping.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't even have that opportunity.
That's great. You seek them out. They're there.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
so
I mean,
listen,
you-
we're
that's the thing.
going
In
to
this
jump to
economy,
this next story
people
here.
are supposed. You got to seek the employer out in this economy. You know, don't wait around to get asked to do a job.
We're going to jump to the related story here from the Post Millennial. Tim Walz begs for donations to his legal defense fund after DOJ subpoena over obstructing ICE. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has started raising money for a legal defense fund after the Department of Justice subpoenaed Walz, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry, and others for allegedly conspiring to impede law enforcement. This also comes as there has been a massive fallout from a fraud scandal that has plagued Minnesota. In a message sent out to supporters, Walz said, Tim Walz here. Last week, the federal government opened an investigation into me. This comes just weeks after a federal ICE agent fatally shot Renee Good in Minneapolis. Now, that is pretty gross.
Jeez.
That fact that he's bringing up Renee Good's death as a way to raise money. Unleashing chaos across our city. Rather than taking accountability and working to turn down the temperature, Donald Trump and his administration are fanning the flames by targeting me for demanding transparency and answers. That's not true at all. Let me be clear. Weaponizing the justice system and threatening political opponents is a dangerous authoritarian tactic, and I won't let it slide. This whole thing is BS. This whole thing is intended to inflame. If Tim Walz and Jacob Fry really wanted to turn the temperature down, they would have the Minneapolis Police Department actually arrest or turn over illegal aliens when they're arrested and turn them over to ICE. But they don't, because they're a sanctuary city. They want to have those people there, and they want to use this as a means to essentially blame Donald Trump and the administration for being the Gestapo. And now he's trying to raise money off the death of Renee Good, which wouldn't have happened if they were turning the illegals over to ICE. None of this would happen if it wasn't for the fact that Minneapolis is a sanctuary state, or I'm sorry, a sanctuary city, and Tim Walz was not. I mean, I don't know that he's benefiting from the Somali daycare schemes, but he's definitely running interference for it.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic too, because all he has to do is go on Kalshi and put a ton of money on when he's going to resign and just resign, and then he'd have millions of dollars.
Yeah, right.
Was that a brand integration? That was smooth.
Yeah, it's you know, they support us. We love Kalshi, but no, there is that.
Smooth.
I don't know if you can bring that up, Serge, but yeah, there's this whole Kalshi market. It's up to like $2.5 million or whatever on when he's going to resign.
Yeah.
If he would just put money down and resign,
He could
he
just
doesn't have to beg for money.
He knows better than anyone else if when he's gonna resign.
It's an interesting philosophy, Phil, that Tim Walz is involved in inflaming the situation than in complaining that the inflammation is the problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There it is.
I mean, look, he's as the governor, and he's made it clear that Minnesota is a sanctuary state. And so that means, and what a sanctuary state means is we don't cooperate with the federal government when it comes to deporting
I
people.
got to ask you, Ruslan, how do we? I mean, you seem like you see both sides pretty clearly, or different directions you can pivot and see around in 360. Like, some people seem to think it just being here makes you a criminal. Like you were saying earlier, we have to get the criminals out. You were indicating violent criminals, like rapists, murderers, things like that. But some people do believe if you're here illegally, you must be out. You must get them out. Other people are like, this area is for those people if they're peaceful. Like, where's the middle ground?
Yeah, I think every person who comes over illegally takes a risk, and they know they take a risk, and that's not just folks from South America. I've gotten rides from folks that are here illegally that are here fleeing the war in Russia, that are like Russians, and that I connect with them. I've all kinds of encounters. Every single person understands that there is a risk that you're taking here. Who should we deport? How should we deport them? Doing it in an orderly way that doesn't cause more chaos. I think that is the deeper conversation that you're pointing to. And I think when you're impeding federal investigations, man, especially when there are criminals, when you do have criminals in custody, like so these guys that get picked up by the Minneapolis PD, I'm assuming they didn't just get picked up for they did something to get arrested, and then to not hand them over to ICE seems like, again, another game of chicken. Now we're just going to make this thing worse and throw more fire, more gasoline on the fire. So yes, it's a tricky middle ground. So this is the tension I deal with, is like, I can embrace someone's dignity as a human, and the person that came over here illegally to flee the war in Russia, and yet they have kids and wife back home, and they're trying to figure out how to get a lawyer. Like, I could have the humanity and compassion for that person in the moment, while also holding the tension of, you shouldn't have done that.
See,
I wish you hadn't done that. I wish you would have went through a legal process to figure out a way to get over here or found a sponsor.
That's an interesting position, because it's like, even, let's say Tim's right and there's a civil war here, right? I'm not going to go to Canada. I'm not going to go to, another country illegally, knowing that I'm there illegal, lie to the authorities, take advantage of their citizens, take an opportunity from someone else. Like, unfortunately, you have to take care of your own. And, when you're looking at Minnesota, it's funny, the Somali fraud that's going on there is indicative of these people that are coming over here and they're just treating it like their country and they're defrauding us. I mean, it's insane. So it's like, I understand, and it's really nice. You're a Christian, you want to see the good in these people and stuff, but they know what they're doing. They've come here illegally, and they shouldn't have. So, at the end of the day, they should not be here.
I agree with you that they shouldn't have. No pushback.
If you found out tonight you were getting drafted to go sent to the front line tomorrow, would you flee the country?
This is a completely different.
Because that's what some of these people are doing in Russia and in Ukraine.
Well, they're also fleeing from. Okay, so is our country under threat?
If it's just all of a sudden they're like frontline warfare is about to break out, you're drafted. Report tomorrow morning.
The Russian guys that I met, that was their position. Was I don't want to go fight Putin's war. This thing in Ukraine is stupid.
This is a great position because I don't think drafts and ground troops are even a thing anymore. I think the fact that we have nukes and the weapons that we have. Right. Well, the fact of the weapons that we have these days, truly, if you're fleeing like a nuclear bomb or whatever. That's a whole different discussion. But I mean, it's a good question. I think you have to take care of your country. You have to fix your country. You can't just flee and be like, oh, I'm going to go take advantage of a different country. I don't think you can.
It's like fleeing is different than taking advantage. Like if you're being drafted to fight a war you don't believe in, and it's the casualty rates are astronomical. Like, I would flee. I'm telling you right now. I'm not fighting some stupid war right now.
It's like you're breaking into someone else's house, and it's like that's not your house. It's not your property. It's not your territory.
If it's granted, the Russians are in a different position than the Ukrainians. Right. But in your hypothetical, is it someone invading the United States?
Yeah, exactly.
So if it's someone invading the United States, I'm going to fight. If it was an invasion, if someone's invading my country, I'm going to fight. Now, is it the United States?
Yeah, think of it the other way around.
The United States invading Canada
Mexico, for instance, Canada,
trying to take Canadian territory? I mean, look. When it comes to the United States, it's a really tough hypothetical to even entertain just because the United States, the military power that the United States is, it would be a totally different thing than what is going on in the Ukraine and Russia, right? Yeah. With Russia, they are largely seen to be a paper tiger. They were, people were saying that it was going to take a few days or a couple of months before they would take Ukraine. And because of funding from the U.S. and other European countries, Ukraine's really been able to stand up. And it's turned into, disgustingly hard trench warfare. And it's awful, right? And I understand why a Russian would be like, I'm getting the hell out of here. It makes sense to me. I understand why Ukrainians are like, no, I'm going to go fight because it's their country. To make that same allegory to the United States is really, really tough.
I'll make it this. I'll try and bind the gap. So if another candidate became president and they were like, yeah, we're escalating in the Ukraine and we're issuing a draft, we're going to send you to the Ukraine tomorrow.
The United States would not do
They wouldn't send them to Vietnam until they did. So if it were Venezuela, let's say Venezuela, they were sending you to the mountain, to the jungles.
Well, obviously.
Would you flee? Would you go somewhere illegally tonight if you're going out, getting sent to the front line tomorrow?
Again, I don't think you can abandon your own home and you can't break into someone else's house. And it's interesting with the Ruslan because you are an immigrant and typically the people that come here and do everything right and legally and stuff, they're actually the most upset about illegal immigrants because they have completely cut the line. They've taken advantage of the whole process. I mean, how long was your process that you have to go through?
It was months in the process. I mean, we came as refugees, so we got asylum status.
Fair. So but just imagine those that have to go through years and years of becoming an American citizen. I mean, that is part of the issue with that whole situation. Even immigrants hate illegal immigrants. So
you said you can't abandon your home and you can't break into someone else's house, but you can. And that's
you
can. You can. Literally, you can.
Right.
Arguably, if you're fleeing, a war, maybe it's not so much cowardice as it is survival.
Well, then you have to do it the right way. You have to go through the proper channels in that other country to say, hey, I'm no longer an American. I'm giving up my citizenship. I want to join you now, Russia or China or Canada or where the hell you're going. You have to do it the right way. You can't just invade their country.
Often, and I don't want to speak with too much certainty on this, but often, at least the Russians that I know that are coming over, get an attorney and try to go through some sort of legal process.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know the particulars, but I know they're not there's a plan in place because they're like, hey, I want to bring my wife and kid over. Like I have a whole, play here at some point.
There's a lot of the illegal immigrants that really, rub people the wrong way, rub Americans the wrong way. They have this concept in their head of they're working here and they're sending money back, right? So as opposed to I'm here and I'm trying to build a better life for me and I'm going to bring my family. Actually, I'm just here to work and I'm going to send money back home.
Extract the wealth.
Which is wealth extraction, and the Americans have a problem with that.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think that's whack. And I think, there's connection to Somalian money being sent over that went on to fund terrorist organizations. So I think that's terrible. I think perhaps the broader question, the deeper question is the type of immigrant that's coming over. Are they coming to assimilate to Western values, to Western culture, to learn the language? We came over and we all learned the language, right? And you guys were like, you can't even tell an accent on me. So we came over, we assimilated. I am an American through and through, right? I'm a citizen, but I understand that there are going to be people that come over from cultures that are not congruent with Western values.
And typically people like you actually hate the illegal immigration more because of how difficult it was for you and your family.
And to your point, I think that's one of the things that most Americans have a problem with, right?
Yes.
Like if you come to the United States and you become an American, you leave the old country behind, you assimilate. Like most Americans, the vast majority of Americans are like, that's fine, that's cool. Whether or not there are some people on the far right that are like, no, we don't want to have any immigration or whatever. And even though I have a pretty hardline stance on immigration and on future immigration, the whole point is to get the people that are here, or at least from my perspective, the whole point is to get people to assimilate, become Americans. If you become an American and stop thinking of yourself as a member of the culture you came from or the home that you came from, and you've actually internalized our values, and you really do believe in the things that make America the country that it is, and have put us in the position globally that we're in, then I'm fine with it. I don't, it doesn't matter.
So when I worked at an after-school program years and years ago, I've met multiple people like that have been here since they were babies, that are American. You would meet them and you would not know that they were undocumented or whatever. They've been here since they were babies. They are American through and through, right? Some of those people, when the DACA thing was trying to get overturned, were getting swept up in this. So when I'm talking about folks that have been here 20, 30 years, again, I am not talking about the 12 to 20 million that came over here illegally from who knows where with who knows what agenda. I'm specifically talking about folks that have been here for a while. So when I'm saying abuelas, I'm saying she's been here 20, 30, 40 years. That's what I'm talking about.
Just because you killed somebody 20 years ago doesn't mean that you shouldn't go to jail.
And also, to your point, I think the fact that you are calling them abuelas as opposed to grandmas, that colors the imagination of people, right? If you're saying if they're here and they've been here a long time, and they're still speaking Spanish, there are Americans that are like, well, have they really left the old country behind? So,
no, these folks speak English, for the record.
You said if you killed somebody 20 years ago, obviously it's murder. But if you robbed the liquor store 40 years ago, I think there's probably a statute of limitations. Maybe not. It depends.
Well,
armed robbery, maybe not.
But then that becomes a philosophical
thing. If you assaulted someone 30 years ago, it's probably no longer going to be on your record. Illegally entering the country is not murder.
Right, but you never did any of the time for the crime is the point I'm making. It's like just because you did it 20 years ago doesn't mean you didn't break the law. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah, but statute of limitations for certain crimes, they don't haunt you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, invading another country is kind of a big
invasion
crime.
Is a specific word.
Well,
one person coming here unarmed is not an invasion.
But it's not just one person.
But we're talking about individuals. If they came with a group, that's another story.
They always come with groups. You're not getting the coyotes to bring one person over. I mean, they're bringing in, a ton of people at the same time, and they're treating these people horribly when they do. That's the other thing that's wild, Like hearing the Democrats try and defend it just because they want their underclass and they want cheap labor, it's insane. They're literally defending the abuse of children.
But I think they're also defending cultural adaptation, that it can happen over 20 years. Someone can become an American.
Yeah. I mean, all I'm saying is there's a big, large, percentage of the MAGA base that is just done with it. And kind of to Phil's point, he's made this argument on the moratorium of immigration because the immigration process has been, completely taken advantage of for so long and millions of people have come in. It's like, we're full now.
We talked about optics a little bit and earlier about the optics of ICE. And I think that the thing that upsets people is the optics of, Minnesota's changed their flag. the protests in Southern California recently where they were waving a Mexican flag. That kind of stuff doesn't endear you to the American people. And it's really, really bad. So when you see politicians that are siding with the people that are waving foreign flags, you see, again, politicians that'll change the state flag to represent a community in there. That doesn't help any.
Yeah.
And so
but you understand my position is more pragmatic, though. I'm talking about the folks that voted for Biden, that flipped and voted for Trump, those folks in the middle that you need to win an election, whether we want to acknowledge them or not, right? MAGA people are always going to be the MAGA people. I think the optics matter to those people.
Yeah, and the point that I'm making is, Ian was alluding to this being an escalation, or you
I would agree.
And so it isn't just that one side is the bad guys in it.
Yeah.
Neither side wants to give up any ground. And if you've got people in the country that are waving foreign flags, you're never going to have even the people that are a little squishy on it, that are go back and forth. If they consider themselves Americans, they're not going to say, yeah, those people are the good Americans. Mm-hmm. And granted, the people that are DACA recipients or people that have been here for 20, 30 years, they're not the ones out there protesting, waving foreign flags, but that they're representing the people that, whether they like it or not, they're representing the people that are here illegally, that are just trying to keep their head down and go to work or what have you. So the escalation on both sides, it's a bad thing for the DHS to be heavy-handed, but largely, to your point earlier, they're letting the guys that are nonviolent go. If that's the case, then the problem actually isn't that DHS is too heavy-handed. It's that the way it's being cast in the media, and I would say the left-leaning media. But they're the ones that are trying to escalate.
Agreed.
They're the ones that are inflaming things. So
I think in the Waltz case, can we all just agree that he definitely was getting funds from that fraud and he should be arrested?
I think at least he was complicit.
Yeah.
I think he knew what was going on. Yeah. I think this dude, he is such a goof, in my opinion, through and through.
People forgot in COVID, remember when he started that phone line where people could call in and report their neighbors?
Yeah.
Snitching on their neighbors. So if they were going outside or having parties or whatever. Yeah, Waltz did
Stop
it.
it.
Yeah.
He's a horrible person.
There was they had the National Guard rolling down the street with Humvees shooting pepper balls at Americans that are just out on their front porches. They were saying, you have to get back in. They would the same tactics that the federal government.
They all went and protested George Floyd.
Yeah, I know. Well, Trump is right. He's retarded. He 100% is retarded. Like, listen to the guy talk.
So back, seeing as we're talking about Waltz went on in his statement. He said, "My job is to defend Minnesotans and the rule of law, and I'm sure as hell not backing down. But the road ahead is long, difficult, and expensive. If you're with me, please rush a donation to our legal defense fund and help ensure we can keep fighting for accountability, transparency, and justice," he added, then offering a donation link. So, I mean, look, this whole thing,
He's cooked.
right? This is all about Waltz trying to raise money to defend himself against legitimate charges, which they haven't come yet, but I think Waltz and Jacob Frey are going to face charges. I think just the fact that that Minnesota is a sanctuary state is enough, in my opinion. I think that personally, I'm a little hardline on this as well. If you're a sanctuary state, I think the federal government should shut off all funding until you come in full compliance with federal law about immigration.
Yeah, and I also think he's raising because he knows other charges are coming that are related to that Somalia stuff.
Yeah, I mean, look, if he is in any way, complicit or if he's been taking any money from that or making any money off it, I mean, toss the book at him, And I think that everyone's probably in agreement here. I don't know that Ilhan Omar is. I think that crimes that she may have committed are totally separate from the Somali.
You don't think she knew about the fraud? It's like literally her culture.
Oh yeah, but where she's a representative? She's the congressional representative from Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So maybe she did. So fair enough. I mean, look, if she's been involved in it, then I'm completely fine with throwing the book at all of them. And to be honest with you, any American that hears this, that if they're found to have been fraudulent and taking money, especially in the quantities that you're talking about, I can't imagine how any American could actually say, they shouldn't be put in jail.
I know.
Like, that's the most ridiculous position to take. These people are defrauding the taxpayer. They're inhibiting the federal government from executing laws that were voted on in a bipartisan fashion. There are no new immigration laws. Like nothing's been passed through Congress, and I mean at all regarding immigration. And so these laws are the same laws that were in place during Barack Obama's term. The same laws that Hillary Clinton swore up and down that she believed in. I mean, you can go and Google up videos of Barack Obama talking about illegal immigrants, and if you came here illegally, you have to go. And Hillary Clinton saying, if you're here illegally, you have to go. So these ideas are bipartisan, and only now, recently, in the past few years, has it become verboten for the Democrats to deport people.
Biden was like the first vacant president where he just said, "Yeah, come on, Serge." Like no other president ever commanded foreigners to surge the border.
Well,
he literally said,
he
surge the border when he was running for president in 2020.
Yeah, that was a direct quote.
But I want to clear the air though, because
during a debate with Donald Trump, he said he's like, no, I would say people need to surge the border.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
But come over?
Yeah.
Oh,
I want to clear the record though, because a lot of people say Obama was the deporter in chief, but his numbers are better than Trump's. That's BS. They were deporting people. They are coming right back.
No, well, not only that, part of the reason why the numbers were high is because people that would come to the border, when they turned them away, they would count those as deportations.
Yeah, that.
So
and they would just come back.
That's not quite a
They turn you away 50, 50
Trump has
times
made
in a
it
day. It's
clear.
like 50 more deportations.
Yeah, Trump has made it clear you're not
I do know
someone.
I do know someone personally whose dad was deported by Obama.
Yeah.
And then
Did he come back?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, he got deported once and then came back, lived, and got deported a second time.
So he did
under
come
Obama.
back.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
that's-
He
yeah.
hasn't been back since. He hasn't been back the third time. Yeah.
It's probably because he wouldn't be able to get in now.
That's what I'm saying. Trump has made it clear. Like the Democrats will say, "Oh yeah, we'll get him out," but then they come right back. You know what I mean?
And again, we talked about this the other night. The administration is offering $2,600 to anyone that says, I'm going to get the app for my phone and I'm going to self-deport. Give them $2,600, and that's because that's less money than it takes for ICE to go and round them up.
Yeah.
So not only are they, is the government deporting people and trying to get people to the people that are criminals, that are illegals, they're also trying to incentivize people that are here illegally to leave. And they say, look, just leave, and then you can file the paperwork and you can come back. If you get picked up and found to be here illegally, then you can never come back.
Right.
It is, to be completely honest, the effort that the federal government is putting in to deporting people and doing it in a humane way really is above and beyond any other country on earth.
Yeah,
it is the federal government is trying so hard to be gentle with the average, to your point, the people that are here illegally but that are not criminals. They're really putting a lot of effort in. And again, I point to the fact that the left is doing everything they can to demonize the administration, demonize the rule of law, and say, look, they're trying to hurt people. They're the Gestapo. You hear this all the time. Yeah. Trump's a Nazi. The ICE agents are Nazis. They're the Gestapo, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, look, man, they're literally offering people $2,600 to leave and the opportunity to come back. Like, you're here illegally. We'll give you money to leave so that way you can buy a flight. I think they might even pay for the flight too. In addition,
I think they do. Yeah.
In addition to the $2,600, give you some money so you can hire a lawyer or start the paperwork, or at least get yourself set up when you're back in the old country, and then you can file the paperwork and still come back. Like there is no more altruistic country on earth than the United States, at all. It's just not. There's just not at all. The government is being incredibly generous, and it's still being treated as if they're this monstrous, horrible thing.
Yeah,
and it's all because the left wants this discord, because it's literally an attack on the United States.
I go to foreign. That's when I think about foreign, because no president ever was okay with illegal immigration until Biden, because he wasn't really I mean, technically on paper he was, but he was just signing stuff that they were telling him to say, he was saying stuff they were telling him to say. I mean, the guy was like barely able to walk by the end of his term. And they used, like, Trump was like, let's build a wall, which was actually, in retrospect, a pretty cool idea if you're trying to, but then some external force seems to have been like, we need to make it seem okay.
Because it's their base. They want the underclass. They want the cheap labor. They want, they want their houses cleaned for less money. You know what I mean? Like, it is the base.
Like the BlackRock International Bank that wants to set up a corporation in the United States.
No, they want
have
the slave
slave
class.
workers.
They
Well, those are the
just
workers
want the-
that
Yeah,
they
that's
would
what
use.
they want. They want to replace the American working community with slave workers.
They probably want America to be a global
No,
state.
they literally come out and tell you they want a slave class. They tell you this.
We're gonna jump to this story, and Ian, get ready for it. The Department of War says yes. The Department of War has direct energy weapons. Yes, we are scaling them. All right, from the New York Post, the U.S. used powerful mystery weapon that brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees during Maduro raid. Witnesses account. The U.S. used a powerful mystery weapon that brought Venezuelan soldiers to their knees, bleeding through the nose and vomiting blood during the daring raid to capture dictator Nicolas Maduro, according to a witness account posted Saturday on X by the White House press secretary. In a jaw-dropping interview, the Guard described how American forces wiped out hundreds of fighters without losing a single soldier, using technology unlike anything he has ever seen or heard. We were on guard, but suddenly all of our radar systems shut down without any explanation, the Guard said. The next thing we saw were drones, lots of drones, flying over our positions. We didn't know how to react. Moments later, a handful of helicopters appeared, barely 8 by his count, deploying what he estimated were just 20 U.S. troops in the area. But those few men, he said, came armed with something far more powerful than guns. They were technologically very advanced, the Guard recalled. They didn't look like anything we fought against before. Look, the guys that are in for Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, those guys have the most state-of-the-art stuff. They have an unlimited budget. They've got night vision with thermal overlays. They can see in the dark like no one else can imagine. They've got the thermal in there, so not only can they see in the dark, anything with a heat signature is put in there. They have connectivity between the whole group with these radios that are basically networked. Like, that's just the dudes. Never mind the fact all the training that they do, and then these directed energy weapons that they're talking about. These kind of things are basically, they just debilitate you. I guess they've been tested on like crowd control. And it will just make, it makes people very uncomfortable. It feels like they're burning. But apparently the technology has advanced to the point where they can shoot them with these weapons, and it'll, make people vomit and make people's nose bleed and make you effectually, totally incapacitated.
Yep. Yeah, they have videos of this. They'll have like the manliest men from the army or whatever standing out in the field, and all of a sudden, like, they'll walk into the field and they can't walk any further because they have like a space, weapon that's shooting down, beaming down on them. And yeah, it sounds like they're getting better. I guess the question to you, Ian, is where did this technology come from?
Where?
Yeah.
Probably in some lab in China. No, I don't know. Some underground base in Colorado or something.
Okay.
No,
Not the donations?
It came from Massachusetts, man. It came from MIT,
Okay.
DARPA. Like those dudes are up there, like tinkering away with lasers.
Have you guys been following Palmer Luckey at all? He runs Anduril. It's government contracted.
No, they're not government
they're
contracted.
They're just totally private.
And wow, that's really? That's the thing that Anduril's doing. They're private, and they want to be able to create weapons that the government will purchase, as opposed to the government saying, we want to develop this weapon and then dumping a boatload of money into it, because he says that it's a much more efficient way to produce weapons. If you listen to some of the interviews that he does, he's like, look, the way that we worked in World War II was we were able to change all of our manufacturing over to making tanks. Well, the Ford plant went from making Fords to making tanks, and all of these different companies, this industrial base that we had, made it possible for us to just build weapons super fast. Nowadays, if the United States were to get into a conflict, in the example that he used, if the United States were to get into a conflict with China, we're out of missiles in 6 days. He's like, there is no way that we can do this. So what Andril's goal is, he's like, we don't want to be the weapons manufacturer for the government. We want America to be the gun store for the world. And they're looking to build weapons and advanced weapon systems, but he uses existing technology. So instead of saying, we have to have a special circuit board that needs all these things and it has to be built in the special plant, I want something you can go to Radio Shack and buy. And obviously, Radio Shack doesn't really exist. But the point that he was making is, I want to make these weapons out of things that currently exist. So that way, if we get into a conflict, we can say, look, we can build these things right now, and we can build 10,000 of them in the next month.
Are they kept under secrecy? Or can he just sell those same weapons to China?
I don't know the details. I know that he wouldn't. Palmer Luckey's very, very adamant about being an American guy and not. That's part of what Anduril's mission.
The next CEO is what concerns me. Whoever owns Anduril next.
I don't know that. I mean, fair enough. I suppose that could be an issue, but when it comes to the mission statement of Anduril, like his point is, I want to supply the U.S. government with the ability to defend the American.
So I brought him up because along with other cool tech you're talking about, he says that now the troops are networked with their head visors. So if you see an enemy through over there, now all of a sudden he shows up on my screen and I can see him.
That's Eagle Eye, and it hasn't been deployed. The stuff that I'm talking about is it's night vision stuff that's been around for a little while and thermal stuff that's been around for a little while. It's just that the ability to integrate the two is kind of
and if it is deployed, they'll tell us it hasn't been deployed until it's really they find out.
Well, if Palmer Luckey actually had sold that to the government, I don't think he would have been on Joe Rogan talking about it.
My argument is that we wouldn't be out of missiles in 6 days because we have a lot of fat men and little boys that we still have. Ruslan, what's your position on nuclear war?
That's a totally different topic, by the way.
I will say peace through strength seems like a logical pathway in this sort of stuff. So if we all know mutually assured destruction, we just all wipe each other out. So I personally am for building up strong governments, militaries, all these sorts of things, increasing the spending on this. That might be controversial because I think the more weapons we have, the more your enemy is strapped and has ARs, the less likely you are to try and break into his house or pick a fight with him.
Especially the more modern weapons you have. Yeah. You know, the Russians in 35 or 38 had the most garbage tanks on the planet, which is why the Germans plowed through, and then the T-41 was it, the tank they built. But like what I'm interested, like to your point, Sean, is lasers. Now, we may run out of missiles in 6 days, but if we have laser weapons, which apparently we do, I was so scared that drones were going to destroy the world, that drone warfare, swarm warfare would obliterate humanity, AI onboard drone war. Now we have area denial lasers, so you won't even see it, but it'll knock every piece of machinery out of the sky.
Are you familiar with what the evolution of drone warfare in the Ukraine war? So when the war started, right, they were using drones that were remote controlled, right? They were all wirelessly controlled. If you look now, there's so many drones that are actually run by fiber optic cable. You basically get a spool that's like 5-10 kilometers of fiber optic cable, and they send the drones out connected because
connected to a cable in the sky?
Tiny little film. No, I swear to God.
What?
It's fiber optic.
Bring up a picture of
That's crazy.
I'll show you right now.
It reminds me of the race cars when you were a kid. You'd have the wireless cars, then you'd have one with a little string to it.
Well, what's happened is now there are videos that Serge is going to pull it up, but of just a whole landscape covered in what looks like cobwebs because they have all these drones that had the fiber optic filament, and that's directly because you have jamming devices. So now the idea of drone swarms coming from a ship to mainland U.S. See, that's kind of like what it looks like. There's so many of them, and that's not even a dramatic reprecation. I've seen.
That's like what Jewish people do in New York, so they can touch things on Saturdays, right? They have the string around all New York.
I thought we were going to get through a whole show without bringing up the Jews.
It all goes back to the Jays.
This is the thing, right?
Can't take him any
They've done the thing.
But the point being, the idea that technology is going to end. Yeah, see, like that, like the whole town is just covered.
Better picture.
I'll start talking it. Keep going, Phil, if you had more.
The idea that military technology reaches a stopping point. Drones are here, so that means that nothing's going to be able to be done. People thought the same thing with nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are here. There's never going to be another war again because it's too dangerous. Well, we just actually aren't using them, and there's still conventional war that goes on.
Yeah.
Are these drones that are attached to wires? They're more resistant to area denial, is what?
Yeah, they're the fiber optic cable is actually where the controls come from. So you can't jam them because what was happening is you could see pictures and videos of dudes with these big old backpacks with a bunch of antennas on them. They're out at the front, and those are jammers, so that way the drones couldn't receive signals from the base.
The laser weaponry they're talking about actually fries the machinery. It'll hit the thing. It'll like the Navy was working on about 10 or 15 years ago on destroyers. I'm picturing like drones coming out of an aircraft carrier, literally in the air, like a real aircraft carrier. well, it'd be another type of aircraft carrier, but it's in the air. And then it deploys the drones. They come out all with tethers, I guess, attached, maybe.
Well,
but then they'd make it tangled. The tethers would have to be able to go through each other. It'd have to be a material that could pass through itself.
Well, that kind of idea, I don't think that's practical personally, just because of the fact that, like, if you have like a mothership, that's a vulnerability. You know, a missile would take that down, or interceptors. You got the F-22 is an extremely capable interceptor,
so maybe high orbital motherships.
Well, again, I mean, it's possible, I assume, but at this point, getting that kind of weaponry into the air is difficult. And look, man, an F-15 shot a missile and took out this is in the 80s, shot a missile into space and took out a satellite. Yeah. So even being in low Earth orbit, high enough to be in orbit, but low enough where you could actually get something from orbit to the ground without burning up,
we have those spikes. We have those spikes.
Rods from God are not real. Tungsten spikes are not real.
They're not?
No,
I've seen them.
No,
I'm curious.
I googled them before.
Okay.
We actually had this
If
conversation.
it's not on Google, then it can't exist.
So what do you guys think if the Iran thing actually sparks up? Are we going to see some other technology in warfare that we've never seen before utilized over there?
I hope that we don't see it, but I hope that it's extremely effective.
It was an if.
Yeah,
yes.
well, I mean, it's still in the air, right? Like this seems like it may happen, it may not happen.
They're still moving assets over there. There's the B-2s at Diego Garcia. There's a bunch of refuelers, KC-135 or KC-135s that have moved over into Europe and stuff. There's talk of special forces being moved to Europe and then moving.
I feel like this is
towards the Middle East.
War show and tell.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's the USS Lincoln.
Gunboat diplomacy, they call it.
The USS Lincoln just moved into the Red Sea and turned its transponder off a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So it
could still go
all
down.
All of the signs are there.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, you think it's going to be this surgical? Iran would be this surgical?
I would hope. I don't think that I'm hoping that the U.S. doesn't use ground forces. I'm hoping that, to be honest with you, it would be cool if we didn't do anything. But if the reports coming out of Iran are true, they might have killed like 10,000, 15,000 people.
I saw 20, 30,000.
Yeah. So I mean, look, I don't want the U.S. to get involved, but at the same time, if the U.S. can do strikes and not put boots on the ground and actually save lives, maybe it is okay.
I wish we had a war hawk on the panel, because I'm very anti-war and I don't think we should be involved in any. But I love talking to the war hawk people, because it's like they're like, oh, let's like Phil saying, oh, let's use drones, let's blow stuff up. I'm just at the point where it's like, what? Just nuke them. Just at that point, just get. I mean, if you're for
that escalated.
war, but you want seriously, like,
I wish that there was a war hawk here that would say nuke them.
Listen, if you're for war and you're advocating for war, what's the argument against just eradicating everything?
You want the territory. That would be like a scorched earth tag. That's like a last resort.
So then we just spend years and years and years spending millions and trillions and billions of dollars on war and killing people over time. Like, how is that?
Yeah, about seizing the capital without a.
I think a nuke is more humanitarian.
If the goal is to help the Iranian people, the Persians and the Iranian people, to dethrone their government, a nuclear bomb kills way too many people. Again,
I think it sends that message.
No. But again, the goal is to help the people.
Nuclear
bombs are not going to help the people.
I mean, my position is, like, I'm so sick of spending decades in these wars and all of our taxpayer dollars
you're not
on this.
talking.
Just get it over with.
You're not talking about achieving the goal. You're talking about just wiping out a country.
I'm talking about, like, ending it. Like, and that's why I think people love the Venezuela thing, because we went in, we got it done, and we were out. Like. Yeah. That's how it should be. Like, I'm so sick of this. Like, oh, we're gonna do nation building. We're gonna spend.
So that's a totally different topic.
But
there's no reason to believe. There's no reason to believe that the United States, if there were to be military action in Iran, there's no reason to believe that we're going to do some kind of nation building. Particularly when there's the former Shah of Iran or his kid that's in the United States that set up a website that the Iranians can access, talking about he wants to come back. If the U.S. were to be able to take out the mullahs or whoever's in charge of Iran. The goal would be to put the Shah back in charge, or allow the Shah to get back in control of the country. You don't need to wipe out everybody in the country to do that.
I'm just saying,
I'm just saying it's a bad idea to drop a nuke if you're trying.
I am against nuclear weapons, for the record.
But again, your hypothetical is it's dragging on and on and on, and the U.S. is involved.
Yeah.
That is a different subject than taking.
And we have boots on the ground.
That is a different subject or a different goal than what I'm talking about, which is if the U.S. is trying to help free the people of Iran from the existing theocracy, and they have a leader that they want, which would be the former Shah or his kid or whatever, if that's the goal, then there's not American boots on the ground forever. There's not continual war in there. It's taking out the leadership, and then the new government gets installed.
It's a good question, and my counter would be, when has that worked? When is us going in, freeing the people, allowing them to govern themselves? When
Panama.
has that worked?
Cuba.
Japan.
Cuba's doing great.
What about
Japan.
Panama?
What did we do in Japan?
dropped atomic bombs.
We
which are
dropped
different-
2 atomic
which are
bombs in
diff- which are
Japan, and now
different-
the men
which are
act like
different
women.
than thermonuclear bombs today.
We completely changed everything, and we sent that message.
But they were a hostile military force. The Iranians are peaceful people being ruled by an
The
autocracy.
Iranians are peaceful people.
The civilians are. They're not engaging in warfare.
Yeah, I
on
don't think
US
the
We're not
land.
civilians
even
are
gonna go
pumped.
If the
down
Iranians
that.
were
Iran-
attacking,
so you're talking-
I would
Oh,
listen to
boy.
I would take your
Yeah.
argument seriously. If the Iranians were attempting to invade the country, if they were arming against us, and for sure nuclear weapons are not off the table, but it's not the way to win the hearts of the Iranian people.
Right. I'm just saying the Iranian people are like saying that they're peaceful people. I mean, that's an we
No,
don't have time.
The
for
Iranian
that, yeah.
government has an agenda that is not aligned with the people of Iran.
I'm just saying it never works. Anytime we intervene and we do this, like we're gonna we're gonna give them a new leader, we're gonna install democracy, we're gonna go and do it. Never works.
It's not talking. Listen, it's
But
not
it worked in
talking
Israel.
about installing.
Did it work
We
in
actually created Israel, yeah,
No,
in
we didn't.
1949.
That was the British.
Well, the British, the Americans, the French, they set up the British
pretty
managed
sure the
Palestine.
United States didn't do
we
that.
basically set up a country. We helped. We were
again,
involved.
Didn't we do
1949.
well with Panama and getting rid of Noriega?
Panama, we got rid of Noriega. I mean, look,
there's been we just hear about the bad stories. There's been good overturning of bad leaders with America involvement.
Was it
We just-
Panama? Didn't they like regress though? Then they go back like 15 years later.
No, they stole our canal.
Yeah, they did sell the canal. Yeah, but I mean, it's not Iraq. It's not Afghanistan. It's not Pakistan.
Yeah, and
Right. It's a long debate. I don't want to get into
well,
it. I'm just saying
situation,
the nukes would
the si-
take care of things. a
No,
lot
it
better.
wouldn't take care of anything. Like it would kill a lot of people, but that wouldn't take.
I think
care
you're
of
rage
anything.
baiting us right now.
I think you are
I think
too.
it's happening.
Because it wouldn't-
I think you're arguing
Again,
for something
I'm
you don't
for
even
peace.
believe in.
I'm not for war.
but at
I'm
what
for
cost?
peace. That's
I'm
why
for
we should
peace.
nuke them.
I'm just saying,
Yeah, like
this is an argument
destroying
for the
every
war
human would
hawks.
create
This is not
peace.
an argument for you guys because you're level-headed. I'm talking about the war hawks that are like, we must be at war.
Let the war hawks make the argument that the
and
war
that's
hawks.
my counter-argument to
No,
that.
no. Let the war hawks make the argument that the war hawks want to make, because you're not a war hawk and you're making a bad war hawk argument.
This is my debate with the war hawks. If Alad was here, I'd
You're
be
like, why not
"Can't
just
we
nuke them then if you want to go?
Exactly, just go
to
all
a
the
20-year
way.
war.
But
I understand.
I've explained why we wouldn't, and you're just like, yeah, but we should nuke
No, I
them.
know, but you're not a war hawk. I want to hear it from them.
Just because I'm not a war hawk doesn't mean that I don't understand the
Yeah, but-
politics that are going on and understand what the goals would be.
I'm just saying, anybody that advocates to use billions of our dollars constantly over decades and destroy our future generations has to explain to me why we can't just take care of it in one day.
All right, all of this context that you're adding doesn't actually apply to this particular topic.
No, 100%.
Okay.
That's why I said
So
I wish
anyway,
a war
all
hawk
right,
was
Just
on
to
the
tap off this story, hypersonic missiles have been a big threat over the last 5 years. The Russians are like, we have missiles that are faster than anything you can use to defend it. Not anymore. If these lasers, air denials function, hypersonic missiles are essentially rendered null. I mean,
That would be the
arguably,
goal.
potentially, yeah.
All right,
I love that we're using lasers.
Smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. We're going to go to the Discord questions today. So go to timcast.com and join the Discord. There's been a bunch of people that have met girlfriends. There's a couple babies that have been born.
Whoa.
It is great community in the Timcast Discord. Join the Discord over at timcast.com and then head on over to Rumble and become a member there. Normally, Monday through Thursday, you can join the Rumble After Show and you can ask questions there. We'll read your Rumble rants and stuff. But today, we're going to the Discord.
And just to clarify, if you didn't know, it's a pre-recorded show on Friday. Not every Friday, but this Friday. But if you're on Discord, in the Discord, it's live. So if you want to catch it live on Fridays, get in the Discord.
Yeah,
That's how
we
we're
want
asking.
some spicy questions today.
Yeah, that's how we're answering Discord messages today. So, all right.
So I actually went through everyone that's staff right there. You can just see them. Yeah. Ruslan has to peace out here as well.
Peace and love, bro. Are you rolling?
Oh yeah.
Ruslan. Oh,
Do you like
thank
give
you
an
very
outro because people are gonna.
yeah. Where can people find you?
Ruslan KD. There's a camera. Ruslan KD on all platforms. Got a book out called Godly Ambition, which I think speaks to the amazing opportunity that we have right now. Also, the tough season that many people are going through. So you guys can check that out as an audible version of that.
Awesome.
Yeah, Ruslan KD on all platforms. Thank you guys so much for having me. This is
I'm
fun.
glad you
much,
made
man.
the immigration debate. Like it's good to get that perspective. That's really
You're
cool.
welcome.
And we'd love to have you back anytime.
I would love to be back. Hey,
Thanks,
appreciate
man.
you guys. Yes. Pray I make this flight.
Catch that flight. man.
Good
He's
luck.
God
leaving
popular
for
again.
his flights
All right.
because
There's a
of the
storm
snowstorm
coming, so he
here.
has to leave early. Yeah, so like man,
By the time
we
you
gotta
hear
get him
this,
back.
he'll
We
be
gotta
home
bring him
resting.
From
Ideally.
SF Campbell, he says Trump created the International Board of Peace and appointed himself chairman for life, which is hilarious and the most Trumpian thing I've seen. And the chairman chooses his successor. About 35 nations have already committed to participate. The left will obviously never tolerate DJT having enduring global influence after his presidency. So what would be their most likely retaliation if, when they accomplish federal power again? I mean, they would do whatever they can to disassemble it. And I think that goes for just about anything that Trump's done, right? Like, so the Department of War, should a Democrat win, the Department of War will be the Department of Defense 15 minutes after he's inaugurated as the president, whoever the next guy is. As for, I mean, I don't know that there's going to be retaliation beyond just taking apart everything that Trump did. Look, even Trump's even the good things that Donald Trump did, like the Remain in Mexico policy, right? They took that away right away, and Biden was like, no, we got to bring all the immigrants in. And now we've got, all of the problems that came along with totally unfettered illegal immigration. People were just running into the country. All you had to do was get to a port of entry and say, oh, look, I want to be, I'm here for asylum, regardless of the actual laws and rules surrounding seeking asylum. So I don't know that there's going to be retaliation, but they will definitely do their best to take it apart.
Well, the first thing I thought was they would make a German Shepherd the chairman of the World Peace Coalition, but I guess if Trump is the only one that gets to decide who the next head of this global alliance, what that kind of
it's for life. So just because he's no longer the president doesn't mean that he's out of the
so nuts.
the chair position.
All these countries signed on. They'll probably all sign off when Trump's gone. Who knows? You think it'll stick around? I haven't really looked into what this is, the global peace.
It all depends on what happens in the next 3 years.
And then Mark Carney talked shit about Trump, and he was like, all right, you're not invited anymore. And he's like, bro, what is this?
That's hilarious. But I do think that it depends on what happens in the next 3 years. If it's an actual organization that does stuff that, is successful and has, laudable achievements, then I think that it might stick around. If it's just a way for Trump to stroke his ego and it doesn't do anything, then it's gone instantaneously.
I wonder if Gulf of America is going to get renamed back to Gulf of America. Oh, God, I'm so annoyed with this. They're going
to undo everything that Donald Trump
or will they do it different? What if they're like, no, it's the Gulf of Good Faith?
Yeah.
Well,
Gulf of America makes the most sense.
Yeah, I know. That's why Vance has to win. That's why the Trump side has to win.
Vance is going to blow everybody else out. He's going to win so hard.
I mean, I know we'll get to the next one, but like, who really is on the Democrat side? Like
Gavin.
That's it.
I know his voice.
So slimy.
Gray hair.
I hope they run AOC. Oh my God, the clips will and the jokes write themselves. You know what I mean?
I mean, look, I'm one of those guys that thinks that AOC is a very viable candidate. I think that she's politically astute, and there's a lot of people that misunderstand this. I think they intentionally misunderstand this, or say they're misunderstanding it without actually putting any thought into it. I don't align with AOC on any of her policies. Yeah. There's nothing that she would do that I like. But the point is, she's a talented political actor, and she is a legitimate threat to the right, to conservatives, because of that talent. Again, I'm not some AOC fan. I don't think that she has, I don't agree with any of her policy positions. I think she would do serious damage to the country, but to just say, to laugh her off,
to underestimate her.
Yeah,
I agree with Tim though. A woman can't win. That's why I hope they run her. because women hate women so much. Like having her go, it's going to be they lose.
I mean, it depends on the conditions, right? Like if the left gets in and they expand the court and do all the things that they want to do and make at-home voting a thing, and maybe they make an app where you can vote from your app, which is a horrible idea.
I know.
I'm not so
like
convinced. If it's a fair election where people have to go to the polls and it's a one-day thing, if the Republicans can actually pass the SAVE Act and make these changes to make sure that the elections are actually secure and it's a one-day thing, then I think that I would agree with you. I don't think that she can win. If it's a situation where the Democrats can say, look, we've created this app and you just download it and you can vote from there, and we're going to go and mail ballots out and we're going to do ballot harvesting, and if the Democrats are in control of the election the way that they were in 2020, I don't believe for 1 second that a woman cannot win. I think that it's all about who control. Look, it's all about who's counting the votes.
And who her opponent is, because I had said, like, someone else had mentioned a woman can't win. I was like, well, if her opponent's Tim Walz, and then we all laughed and we're like, well, maybe if it's Tim Walz, yeah.
I mean, but Kamala is a great example of a woman can't win. You know what I mean? Like
Kamala Harris was a terrible candidate, but she was uniquely terrible, and I don't think AOC has any of the same problems aside from being a woman.
We have so many women voters, regardless of the repeal of the 19th and what people and what they want. Like we have a lot of women that vote, and they hate women. No. They just hate women.
I don't know if hate's the right word, but maybe.
No.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
You ever work with women that work with other women?
I can't really speak for
it's the way that women. Yeah. It's the way that women behave socially. That like women are extremely critical of other women, and it got like men argue to their face. Women, cut each other's throats behind their back.
Is there a genetic thing where like a woman doesn't want her husband serving another woman?
I don't know if that's it. It's social. Like men, look, if men don't get along, men might get into a fist fight. There's always an underlying possibility of violence. And then after the fight, they can settle the score and just be like, all right. Because what the fight does is it figures out who's actually on top, right? The physical fight, it's like the guy that loses the fight kind of is like, all right, well, that guy's kind of, in charge. And this goes back to before we were even humans. Yeah. Women have to do things like they need to de-escalate. Because they're not physically powerful, they use control, they use manipulation, and this isn't trying to say that women are bad. This is just what evolution has done. Women are going to use social things to discredit other women, and so that's kind of where the argument.
I was thinking like a guy would be like, we need better body armor. The women would be like, we need warmer clothes. I mean, obviously the guy's going to say we need warmer clothes too, but the woman will make sure that this is ridiculous. I'm just all speculating, but that people are healthy. Like the way we're going to win is by having healthier men, and the men are like, the way we're going to win is by destroying our opponents.
Well, women, what they do is they'll go up to another woman and say, "Oh my God, that dress looks so great on you. You did something so great," and then later they're calling 10 of their friends saying how horrible of a person.
You may not. I don't know if you've heard this, but a hairdresser will cut a woman that she thinks is prettier than her. She will cut her hair shorter than what the person wants. And they don't even think about it, but they're just like, because long hair is associated with beauty.
It does take effort to make other people look better. Like that's an acting trick. They teach you in acting school. Like the whole point of being an actor is to make everyone else on stage with you look better.
And now this is not all. You can never say all in every scenario, but we're just saying on the masses. Like this is how women.
It's a thing that Rudyard Lynch calls GSM, which is gossip, something S, and manipulation. And he specifically is like the way that women argue amongst themselves in order to create hierarchy amongst themselves. It's a thing.
I appreciate you pointing out the strengths of AOC though, because it's important to know the strengths of your opponent.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Very important.
That's why whenever people are we had Terrence K. Phillips on and he was laughing and I'm like, man, that's such a bad perspective. You don't want to underestimate an opponent at all. You never want to underestimate and to just blow her off and be like, oh no, she could never do it. I was like, man, that's just the wrong attitude to have, because she's very popular on the left and she's extremely politically talented. So I mean, you can think I'm crazy, you can laugh all you want, but look, man, she is going to, at some point, she is going to run for president.
Yep.
Like she has those aspirations. I don't know for sure. Yeah, I don't know that for sure that she's going to win, but she absolutely has the ability to win. So, from Taylor Lorenz's Somali daycare. Assuming we lose in 26 and 28, and we go back to peak woke, open borders, transgender everything, et cetera, what does it look like when these third worlders kids start bringing gay shit home from their public schools? Do you think there's a possibility that pushes immigrants to the right? Do they choose to keep their kids safe over living on the democratic welfare fraud tit? I love you, Phil, Ian. Thank you very much.
It's already happened in the UK. I mean, you saw, like, what do? They just teach their kids at home. That's all they do. They'll come up to their own schools. I mean, it's happening in Minnesota. They have schools already that teach out of the Quran and teach, the Hadith, and like that's their education. They're not going to be taught those things because they're not going to be in those situations.
Yeah, I don't know. At some point, there would be a fight between the religious immigrants and the left. But I think that that's further down the road because you don't see that confrontation happening en masse yet in the UK, although it's coming. And I think
saw it with like Tommy, and you saw some of that stuff.
But I'm talking about is you don't see the leftists,
right? Because they see each other
religious
as fighting a common enemy.
Yeah.
They're
so
allies.
it would eventually happen. And to be honest with you, I think the left loses
when
the
they're back in
religious people.
power. That's when it happens.
Oh, that's the scary part is a theocracy coming out of all this. The rubble is like somebody's like, it's my belief structure that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And you're
Well,
like,
both of them have a belief structure, but the left, because of the way that the left operates, they're going to say, well, we can't attack these minorities, even if they become a majority. And that's what has to happen, to your point, or to push back on your point. They have to be close to a majority before they actually confront the left.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm saying when the left is back in power, that you already kind of saw it. Like, you see it with, like, the leftist demonstrators. They'll attack the Democrats, even though they're on the same side. They'll say, well, you're not going far enough. You know what I mean? Like, there is that civil war.
Yeah, but I think that, so at least in the hypothetical that was presented, just because the left wins the next election doesn't mean that that's the point where the left starts fighting with the religious people.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying they have to then be in power for that to even happen. Like, if they're the underdogs, if they are still losing, they're going to partner with them.
A removal of the common enemy. And then these two
then
disjointed forces
it's what
will
happened
come
to the
head.
conservative movement. It's like everyone started pointing their guns at each other and attacking each other on the conservative side because why? We won, And when you win, people are terrible winners. They start attacking each other instead of keeping their eye on the prize.
I think it's part of the problem with partisanry is it's so much about you and your group that even if you have other groups with you that have a common enemy, split away. Like,
big tent.
Are you ready to amalgamate or are you still partisan?
So Doc T-Bone says, Phil and everyone other than Ian. Rosie O'Donnell self-deported because Trump won. Unfortunately, she's coming back. What else can we do to make it as inhospitable as possible so all the awfuls will self-deport along with the illegal invaders? I don't know that you're going to get rid of a significant number of actual American citizens.
I think we covered it today, actually. I think you need to make it painful for them, and part of that is taking away their underclass, their slave class, forcing them to have to pay more for the services and the things that that's the only way to get rid of these people.
I think that this is just my opinion, but I don't think that the slave underclass is going to be a thing far into the future, because I really do think the point that I'm making is I think that robots are actually going to become so they're going to be ubiquitous. I mean, people don't realize how many robots they interact with and see nowadays. And like we were talking last night about, you get Amazon deliveries by robot now. You can get food deliveries by robots. And I think that there will be some amount of human beings doing menial labor for the next few years. But honestly, I do think that once they perfect Optimus and the humanoid robots, and once they start getting out into society, and again, these things are not going to be expensive, Right. And when I say not going to be expensive, I mean they're not going to be prohibitively expensive. They're not going to be so expensive that only the super rich have them. You're going to have
Initially,
middle.
they will be.
No, because
Okay.
the reason I'm saying is because these things will cost between probably $25,000 and $35,000, and you'll finance it at 5% because the banks are going to love to give you that money, so that way they can make the interest payment on it. So you get that. People will forego the second car because you can have a robot for the same thing, and the robot will go and get your food and go to the grocery store for you and save you all this time, and the robot will fold your laundry, and you can actually say it's a better investment to have the robot than to have a second car.
I wouldn't even be surprised if within 3 years the cost will drop to $7,000.
See, and I
absolutely,
because Elon today said, or I read that he was saying that robots will soon be building robots.
Yeah,
I understand what you guys are saying, but I just don't share your view that, even in our lifetime, it's going to happen. We're not going to have robot maids. We're not going to have autonomous stuff. I look at it now. I mean, you have those like robot washers or whatever. Like they don't have opposable thumbs. They can't do a lot of the stuff like cleaning a house, doing the plumbing, doing like the electrician
they have those robots
stuff.
right now.
I don't share your guys' optimism.
What you're talking,
I think it's like 2 generations down the road, honestly. To where it literally becomes a part of we can't even get cars to drive themselves, even though we have the tech.
My car drives me all the time.
But you have to be there though. That's a problem.
Only because of the government saying it has to be. The Waymos and the Waymos and the Tesla taxis are driverless.
But when can't Waymos drive? When it's snowing, when it's raining, and when the elements are a part of it. Like you still need humans for that,
So there are times where driving is inhibited by weather, but that doesn't mean that a robot, like a humanoid robot inside the house, is inhibited in the same way.
I mean, I hope you guys are right. I fear like we've been made all these promises on this stuff, and
Elon's pretty good at following through so far. He's got a good track record.
Now,
with
was he
the purchase of Twitter.
hiring people to be in those robots? Did anyone ever figure that out? Like when he has those parties, he has those robots come around. Are there like people inside of those costumes?
They're not inside of them. What they would do is they would have a pre-programmed walking route, so the people would walk it. They would be wearing a suit.
Controlling it.
The people would wear a suit that it has sensors on it. They would do whatever the robot's supposed to do, and then they would transfer that information into the robot, and the robot would do it.
Gotcha.
But again, this is the if you look at the stuff that Boston Dynamics is doing, and the robots that they have, the Atlas, I think is the name of it.
And even Amazon, I saw those.
Yeah, some of those. But those, it's not very far off where AI will be able to do, because they have the ability, they have the mobility, they have the articulation necessary, but it's a matter of getting the AI to be able to do that. And AI is I mean, I bring this up a lot, the Will Smith eating spaghetti 2 years ago.
Yeah.
The video.
Oh, for sure.
It looked ridiculous. Everybody could clearly see that it was a mess. The spaghetti appearing and disappearing, and his face was getting all weird. And that was just 2 years ago.
Right.
Nowadays, if you make an AI video of Will Smith eating spaghetti, it is indistinguishable.
How many how many magnitudes better is that? 30 magnitudes better? Like, it's hard to tell how many 100 quadrillion
it's
times
probably
better.
Yeah. Remember, an order of magnitude is adding
10.
0.
Yeah.
So,
I hope you guys are right, but after being in kind of like manufacturing, the corporate world, like the nuances in any process are so like there's so many little things, like even in the smallest process of like watering the plant or whatever, like from office to office, like there's all these nuances.
Robots have been building cars for 3 decades, 4 decades.
Yeah, but with humans overseeing them and fixing them when they're broken.
Yes, but they're doing the building, right?
They'll do some of the welding and things like that.
So that's a repeatable thing.
Sure.
And you're dealing with robots.
That's what I'm saying. Like very easy processes they can do, but like when you get into the nuance of like Ian likes to have his bed made a certain way, like instead of like the fold here, it needs to be here. Like there's just like. That's just me being like a process guy. Like I know like how much nuance.
I keep picturing these robots with like tool belts that have all these different like an egg beater and a knife and a spoon, and then they can go zing, and they roll their hand off and they put the egg beater on. Why? And then they can beat your eggs.
Why would you do that when all of these tools exist and you're making robots with hands?
If the grips are good enough, because like Sean's saying, process. I don't know if the robot hands are going to be good enough for the real specific stuff.
Just Google what they're doing at Boston Dynamics. And that will cure you of that opinion.
Hey, I was promised a robot dog and a machine that would cut my hair by the Jetsons.
The robot
and flying cars.
All right.
Could probably
We
run on all
gotta
fours
get
for
some
you.
more. We got to get some more questions here. Let's see. Who's this? Let's see. Mr. Sombra Joe says, for the panel, I understand Abuela looks bad, optics, but if we don't deport illegals, what will the message be for everyone looking to come here to the USA? I also believe we need to start going for landlords, companies, and corporations using illegals for cheap labor or get some economic advantage over the U.S. American citizens trying to do everything by the book. I completely agree.
Yeah,
I want to go after landlords. I want to go after employers. Currently, the government can go after employers.
Yep.
I think that they should be doing more of that. And I would love to see I would love to see people going after landlords. If you're knowingly renting to illegals, you should face some kind of criminal charges or something.
I agree.
You know, geopolitically, the optics have shifted drastically. It was only Biden fucked up the optics globally when he said surge the border. Like, the optics are don't come to the United States illegally. Do not do it, and especially now. People know. So I don't think going any harder domestically will make global optics be like, oh, now I really shouldn't go. Like, people do not want to come here right now. It's a bad time to illegally try to get into the United States.
No, but that's why I wish that people like Ruslan, which again, he's Christian, and this is like like a thing that they have. You got to accept people and blah blah blah, and the church and all that stuff. But like, they can't see the fact that it's like, yeah, they have committed a crime. They're here. They shouldn't be. You know, would you allow somebody from off the street to come and sleep in your house and live in your walls?
Sounds like my years in Venice, California.
Right. Well, so you
Dude's
would.
on the
Ian
couch.
might. Ian
I thought
might,
you said
right?
my ears. I was like,
Yeah,
what about
Ian
your
might.
ears
No,
in
my
Venice?
years
But no,
in
you know what I'm
Venice.
saying. Like
Well,
it
year.
really, it's like, I understand they want to be like humanitarian. They want to like take care of these people. And yes, they're fleeing from bad situations or whatever, but it's not our problem. You know, like, go to India. Like, they're going to have the same problem with you. Go to Canada. They're going to have the same, well, Canada maybe. Like,
I think
whatever,
it ebbs and flows because that whole "it's not my problem." We go through like a phase, like just 50 years where people are like, "It's not my," and then it's like, well, we see the suffering in the world, and you're like, maybe it is
It's
because we're all on
not
Earth
our
together.
Problem.
Well, we're all humans.
There's always going to be suffering in this world, but it's not the U.S.'s job to fix it.
Yeah, and again, we were talking, the U.S. is the most altruistic country on earth.
Yep.
Like, we are way more receiving and accepting than basically any other country, and the efforts that we've gone to incentivize people to go home are far beyond anything. Like, most countries just throw you in jail.
That's why they take advantage of us, because they know we try to be the bleeding hearts. We try to be the people that like take care of the world, and we just get taken advantage of. We have to stop. We have to just, like Trump saying, don't come. You come to the border, you're getting turned away.
Even Kamala Harris said, "Don't."
Well, she
come.
said, everyone knew that was
Yeah,
bullshit.
don't come.
Like, they want
Trump's
them.
like, "I'm coming."
That
Did
was
you see that
comedy.
edit?
Cut their
Yes,
grass.
that's comedy.
freaking hilarious.
We got one more from Colt. What do you guys believe Vance would do if Trump is impeached or arrested? Go scorched earth and declare sedition, or sit back and wait his turn? I mean, I think that he would. Well, first of all, he would take the office of the presidency, and then he would, probably direct the DOJ to look into it. I'm not sure how you would get Trump arrested without the DOJ, but if he was impeached and removed from office by impeached by the House and removed from office by the Senate, which is a long shot because the Republicans control the Senate and likely will control the Senate after 2028 as well. I think that he would probably direct the DOJ to look into it and see.
You're talking about JD Vance?
Yeah.
I think he would do the right thing, whatever that thing is, because I was not a fan of JD Vance. I didn't like him. I didn't like his movie. I didn't like his book. I didn't like the fact that, he had liberal friends and Hollywood friends and stuff. But ever since he's been in, every single thing that comes up, he's always on the right side. The Tony Hinchcliffe thing with the Puerto Rico joke, remember he made the joke about Puerto Rico? He was the only one in the administration that handled that properly. He came out and was like, we're not going to get upset at jokes. We're going to get over this. We're the adults in the room. Even Trump was like, Tony, I don't even know the guy. He completely threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
Vance always seems to, I don't know if it's his advisors or what, but he's always making the right, decisions. He has the right reactions to, whatever it is. So, I really like him. I didn't like him, but he's really won me over just through
me
his
too,
actions.
man.
Yeah.
He's like a normal dude. He's like
But he
a
gets
peer
it.
of mine from high school, I
Correct.
feel like.
And he's paying
really
attention to
He
you.
seems ethical.
Yeah, he's reading people's tweets. He's really in it,
All right.
He really gets it.
Listen, smash the like button, share the show with all your friends, go to rumble.com, become a member there. Go to timcast.com and join our Discord. Ian, where can people find you?
At Ian Crossland on the internet. YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram are the 3 that I tap into the most. And also go to graphene.movie. You can find this new documentary that I'm building with a great group. 6'7" Kevin is one of the producers. Andreas Exertus is in it with me. And we went to Rice University and uncovered a bunch of new upcoming super tech that's being built, nanotechnology and wild, awesome interviews. Graphene.movie. Sign up for the emailing list, and then you'll get emailed when the documentary is live. How about you, Sean? What have you been up to?
Not much. Follow Ruslan. I know he's not here. He had to go, but he was fantastic. Follow us at Timcast News everywhere. Check us out. We got new content every day, all day. Phil.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. The band is All That Remains. We're going on tour in April. We're going to be out with Born of Osiris and Dead Eyes. You can get tickets at allthatremainsonline.com. You can check out the band All That Remains at Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, YouTube, and Deezer. Keep an eye out for Timcast IRL clips all weekend. Make sure you check out The Culture War. We did that this morning. It was a really good show. We're talking about scammers and how you can protect yourself and what's going on with scammers on the internet and how they're using AI and it's all a scary, scary thing. So check that out. And we'll be back on Monday. So don't forget the left lane is for crime.
And so was there one more thing. Serge, you're awesome. Did I get that in?
Yes.